Okay, call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Appreciate you coming. Please come sit at the table. We do run this as more of a roundtable meeting. We will have a roundabout in the beginning as normal, where you get to introduce yourself and say a few comments. Keep it very short because there'll be another times when you can have your longer comments. During the time after the presentations, we'll also have an opportunity to speak. Now, we don't have a 3-minute time limit on this thing, but you know I have a soft gavel, and we have to obviously move along because we always get out of here by 8 o'clock. I don't think, but one day at a time we were 10 minutes late getting out of here. So that will be very helpful. So the first thing I want to do is turn it over to our Executive Director, Drew Bartlett, and allow him to make a few comments.
Thanks, Newton. And again, Newton, thank you for holding these forums for us and shepherding the issues that you do so well. Thanks, everyone, for coming. I look forward to the discussion. There's a lot of good things on the agenda that we can talk about, but if there's other things that you just want to raise, please feel free to do that as well. But I look forward to all the presentations and the discussion, and thanks for coming.
Thank you, Drew. I note that there was going to be some announcements about the organizational change, and to introduce Rich. Rich, you want to introduce yourself? And
Sure. They took all the time to write this down for him, but he missed it anyway, but that's all right. He's a busy man. So my name's Rich Virgil. I've been, the land management group is now going to fall under field operations. We had a small reorg at the district to better align for our mission. So Rory's team is coming back over to field operations, which they've been there before. It's a good fit for us. We have a lot in common. We can support each other and you know, get the job done and support the mission of the recreational forum. So I look forward to supporting the land management team and helping everybody get their job done and have a lot of fun out there on district lands. Rory?
Thank you, Rich, and thanks everybody for coming today. Many of you know that Steve Coughlin retired a couple months ago after being here for almost 20 years. Taking his place is Justin Nolte. Justin Nolte also brings 20 years of experience working in the natural resource environment and public use and recreation. He was our land manager out of the East Coast region and previous and to his current role here as the section administrator, he was the land manager in the Kissimmee River region. Prior to working at the district, he was the fish and wildlife biologist for FWC. So welcome aboard, Justin, and welcome to the group.
Looking forward to working with y'all.
Okay, welcome. Okay, I'm bound to do the housekeeping items. Obviously, we're on Zoom, and the Zoom folks are all welcome out there. The instructions will come from Molly here, but you know, they'll raise your hand. I think we're all adapted to this thing after 3 years, and it's a wonderful thing because obviously people don't have to travel the long distances. We will have opportunities for public comments, as I said. We want to keep them short, although we do have a soft gavel here. If it's pertinent, we'll let it run a little longer, but not long. We do have to want to get out of here by 8 o'clock. Microphone, keep your finger on the button, which I tend to forget every now and then, and if it's a green light, then we can hear you. If it's a red light, we can't hear you. And since we're all on video, it does not pick up anything. It doesn't go through the mic, so be sure you have your mic on. State your name if you're on your group that you might represent, so that will be on record so people will know. And these things are on YouTube, and people do go back and look at them. And if they don't know who you are, you know, we might know who you are, but they don't know who you are. So be sure to introduce yourself on that. Public comments, if you will work at where you are, so don't worry about that. I don't think we have an overflow that use the podium in the back. Just do it at the table. Okay, do you want to do the Zoom?
Yes, if you're on Zoom and you'd like to make a public comment, you will use the raise hand feature. And if you're on your phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to mute and unmute.
All right, we will start with a brief introduction of who you are, who you represent, and any of the a particular topic, very short, that you're interested in being discussed today. And let's move relatively fast because obviously we have a lot of folks. So you've heard from Drew, and Drew, you have any further comments?
Yeah, good afternoon. Michael Weston, Florida Forest Service. I'm here to talk about public access and recreation in Picayune-Strand State Forest over in Collier County.
I'm Bob Lucius. I'm with the Crew Land and Water Trust, and I'll likewise be doing an overview of public use and education programs in the Crew.
Good evening, Mike Elfenbein, Cypress chapter of the Isaac Walton League. Just a guy here to listen.
Brad Wyrock, representing Kissimmee River Valley Sportsmen and Florida Airboat Association.
Jerry Bridges, KRVSA.
Kyle Archecki, Broward Airboat and Half Track Conservation Club.
Bishop Wright, Florida Sportsman's Conservation Association and the Florida Airboat Association.
Matt Nelson, Florida Sportsman Conservation Association and Lake Okeechobee Airboat Association.
Ian Gardner.
Nancy Pyre, Host Association.
Marilyn, I'm here to represent some of the horse community for Dupuy.
Richard Martinez, Florida Chapter Backcountry Hunters and Anglers.
Vince Adams, just a private citizen here to observe.
Sean McCann, South Florida Chapter of Safari Club International.
Larissa Musgrove, FSCA, and the Youth Hunting Program in Florida.
Vijay Katel, past district employee, today representing Arthology.
Mark Rivard with Florida Sportsman Conservation Association.
Billy Boatwright, Florida Sportsman's Conservation Association and the Florida Airboaters Association.
Thomas McGoldrick, Florida Sportsman's Conservation Association, Florida Youth Hunt Program.
Kerry Garceau, Florida Youth Hunt Program.
Pete Lum, Florida Sportsman's Conservation Association.
Justin Vellet, FSCA.
James Erskine, Everglades Coordinator with Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission.
Hello, I'm Cheyenne Walker with FWC and the Southern Hunting.
Emily Johnson with the District's Office of Counsel.
Mike Cheek, a Recreation Project Manager with the district.
Jim Schutte, Wildlife Biologist for the district, here to talk about Cypress Creek restoration.
James Harbaugh, Recreate Planning with Land Stewardship.
Justin Ulte, Section Administrator.
Dan Cotter, Section Leader for the district.
Yvette Bonilla, South Florida Water Management District, and past recreational coordinator. And I like, Molly will introduce herself to all of you, but Molly will be your new coordinator.
Molly Brown, South Florida Water Management District. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple of persons that came in the back. I see one governing board member back there. Mr. Butler, would you like to make a comment?
Well, just to introduce myself, and Ben Butler, serve on the governing board. I'm going to sit in the back, listen to discussion today. Any bullets, throw Drew's way, or even Justin's way. I know Justin can handle it. Justin's, y'all are in good hands with Justin. I can tell you his wife, school teacher at elementary school, taught my daughter, and it's just, I've got to know Justin over the years, and he's in good hands. But if you have any problems with Justin, don't hesitate to get with Drew or get with me. We'll get him set straight. But anyways, no, I really appreciate this group and appreciate the discussion. I watch y'all from afar. Worked out this evening I'd come down and join and listen in. But look forward to the discussion today.
Anyone else back there want to introduce yourself? Or okay. I'm gonna just make a quick little deviation here. I know the FSC, I know you guys just did a fantastic alligator hunt at STA 5. Would somebody like to make a couple of comments about that alligator hunt and thank the district for the access, Bishop or whoever?
Sure, I'd like to make some comments. I really appreciate y'all letting us take the youth hunting program to STA 5. We had a phenomenal hunt. We had 5 kids. They were all able to harvest a gator. It was a great event, enjoyed by all. Thanks.
I think, was it 5, Bishop? How many kids did you have, and they all got gators? Or?
Well, I'd like to start with last weekend. We've got a couple hunt masters sitting over here that did a hunt on Dupree. They took 3 gators off Dupree, and Larissa took a hunt off of STA 2, and they took 5 gators out of STA 2. It was a hard hunt with the restrictions of the area. But we had a phenomenal hunt this weekend. Billy Boatwright was a hunt master. We took 5 gators, and it was the hardest part was weeding through them to get to the slot limit. Kids would throw over there and they'd catch the wrong gator, and we'd fight him for an hour or so and have to turn him loose to go get a smaller one. So it was, as some would say, some of y'all seen my picture, they were stacked in there good. But, and then this weekend, we have a hunt on STA 1 East, which is coming up, and I'm sure it's going to be interesting too. We have a hunt on Mecca Farms this weekend, and then the following weekend, we have a hunt in STA 1 West. So we really appreciate the opportunity, and when is the Browards Club? I forgot that one too. I think it's in April sometime. They have another one on STA 3-4 too that I almost slipped my mind. But anyways, as y'all see, we got them stacked up right now, and we're enjoying the opportunity, and we want to thank everybody in the district and FWC for an awesome youth hunting program, allow us to do that.
Okay, thank you. I understand we're going to have some photos later in the presentations. I know I saw the one on Facebook where you're looking up the canal on STA 5, and it looks like Africa. There's like 100 gators right there in sight. Okay, we've made the round table. Everybody's introduced themselves that would like to introduce themselves. That's fine. So we're ready for our first presentation. And our first presenter is Dr. Bob Lucius, I guess, Executive Director of the Crew Land and Water Trust. And welcome, Bob.
All right, well, thank you. And I'm happy to be here. This is my first opportunity to be at the Recreational Forum, and I'm always excited about an opportunity to brag about Crew Land and Water Trust, and particularly brag about the relationship that we have had with the district over the course of, well, more than 30 years. So if you're not familiar with Crew Land and Water Trust, we have really a 3-part mission. Of course, when we were founded back in 1989, and we were founded at essentially the guidance, if not the direction of the Water Management District, who encouraged our founders to get together as a way to bridge a lot of the different agendas and visions for a lot of the lands in Collier and Lee County that at that time were under the threat of development, but that we knew would be required for the long-term sustainability of our water supply and the natural habitats, and of course the flora and the fauna that rely upon those habitats. And so we were founded to help bridge a lot of those divisions as we sought to spearhead the acquisition of lands, bringing parcels in, whether by private agencies, by public partners, or by working with the private landholders to enact various forms of conservation easements. And then in 1993, our mission expanded, and we moved on to public use and environmental education, really, again, at the behest of the district. Because in 1994, the first trail system that was opened in the Crew management area, the Crew Marsh Trails, needed some help to facilitate that public use and to educate folks about why those trails were there and how they fit into the broader picture of the Corkscrew Regional Ecosystem Watershed Project, this 70,000 square acre watershed, of which the Crew management area, that area that's owned by the district, is about just shy of 30,000 acres. So I'm going to focus on the last two aspects because that really lies at the heart of what we do with the district and how we support the district's vision. Now, before I get into that, however, I do want to point out that we're a relatively small organization. And the reason I want to point that out is that we accomplish a substantial amount of public use facilitation as well as environmental education. We're able to do that with 3 full-time staff, a couple part-time personnel. One I just recently brought aboard a couple weeks ago. We have an education intern program that we have been running since 1999, where we have at least 2 or 3 environmental education interns that come in every year from local universities. And we have a very extensive volunteer program. As you see, we've had 4,611 hours of volunteer labor last fiscal year alone, worth about $138,000. So that, over the course of the last 6 years, we've had about 30,000 volunteer hours. So a lot of the things that we do for the district are right there in our volunteer service efforts. And of course, we have a very large board that represent a diversity of stakeholders, land developers, government personnel, conservationists, educators, the full spectrum contribute to our board. And we have a very large member base as well. So again, as I said from the get-go, we were founded really at the direction of the district. They wanted a partner that could help bring together all these disparate partners in the area to bring land into conservation. And so for the last 30 years, we have assisted the district through a service contract to carry out our help with the land management, but mainly to facilitate the public use and communication side, as well as to design and deliver environmental education programs. So as it says right there, the contract has been, the most recent contract has been in effect since 2014. We recently signed the new amendment last year. It's $159,272 annually. We also benefit, we share office space at the Crew Field Station with our district colleagues and our FWC colleagues. And that is a great opportunity for us to integrate and synchronize our activities. We assist the district folks just as we assist the FWC folks with their mandate. And they help us as well by providing the training that we need for our volunteers, whether they're out there doing land stewardship activities, stewarding the trails, or acting as guides, or assisting with surveys of different animals and plants, or just being out there as trail stewards educating the public. So we have 4 trail systems that we help manage within the Crew management area, and these are the trail systems and when they were opened. The most recent one, of course, was Crew Flint Penn Strand that opened in 2018. We did open the Purple Trail in 2021 that connects Flint Penn Strand to Bird Rookery Swamp. And as you can see, we offer lots of amenities to the public who come out to use those trail systems. Over 40 miles of marked trails, 13 different trail systems, many of which can be used for biking or equestrian activities. We have picnic pavilions, observation decks, boardwalks, and primitive campsites. And of course, we're always looking for new opportunities. I'm sure I'm going to talk to our partners here over the next few weeks about looking ahead to establishing a new campsite perhaps in the future, or a new trail. The public has been clamoring for a new trail as well. And we are completing this month a new pavilion at Flint Penn Strand, and we're looking ahead to our final pavilion, which will be at Bird Rookery Swamp, and we hope to get one of those underway in the next year as well. So what do the volunteers do for us? Well, a big part of what the volunteers do is our trail stewardship. So, as it says here, we have to upkeep those 40 miles of trails, litter collection, infrastructure repair, not the major things, but there's lots of minor things that have to take place. We're still collecting refuse left behind by previous landowners. You can see that big pile of barbed wire that was just taken out 2 weeks ago from Flint Penn Strand by our volunteers. We're still pulling old tires out of Flint Penn Strand. They go out, they collect our public use information from the traffic counter, and thank you, Dan Cotter, for replacing all those systems for us last year. That has helped us out a lot to make sure that we're keeping accurate numbers of visitors. And of course, we're always looking for ways to improve that experience for visitors. And so we're looking ahead to accessibility upgrades, so putting in new benches, new picnic tables, again, new picnic pavilions, to encourage folks to get out there and enjoy those public lands. So we have about 60,000 annual visitors that come out to those 4 trail systems. And in the heart of the pandemic, we had up to 98,000 in a year as folks flocked to the outside to enjoy those experiences when everything else was closed. We offer about 75 scheduled guided hikes or wet walks or bicycle tours every season at all 4 trail systems. We do dozens of by-request guided hikes for different groups, school groups, community association, businesses. We have self-guided tours at 2 of the trail systems. We're working on a 3rd. We have talking trail box systems that in 2017, a Big Cypress Basin grant allowed us to put those in. We have geocache and earth cache events, and we recently installed some chronologs. If you're not familiar with those, they're a photo point monitoring system that allow visitors to the trails to upload photos into a time-lapse sequence to see how the environment and landscape changes over time. So we've found those to be really popular, and we've got 10 of those systems, 4 already installed. The next 6 will be installed in the next 2 months. So in addition to all the recreational public use, we also offer a wide variety of education programs. So our K through 12 programs lie at the heart of what we do for our education programs. In November and December, we offer our Walk Through the Watershed program for Collier County Public Schools. We had almost 600 students, 3rd graders, come and learn about what a watershed is. And then we've had 2nd graders who came in January and February to learn all about the different types of soils in the various ecosystems of CREW. We've had several hundred other K through 12 students that come and take those programs, and also tailored programs to learn about the watershed. The FGCU Panther Posse program brings in several thousand students every year, again, ostensibly to learn about panther habitats, but they also get exposed to issues about the watershed. And then we have lots of by-request programs from various youth groups. We have university education programs as well. We had 27 university classes come through last fiscal year. We're up to 16 already this year. We have by-request programs. Again, we bring students out for volunteer service learning opportunities. We have partnerships with the Florida Gulf Coast University's Water School. As I said, we've had an environmental education internship. We're starting a communications internship this fall. And we have a student membership program that is specifically, it's a free program for students to come out and be exposed to various types of career opportunities in STEM that they may not have considered. In fact, one of our interns in the past is a psychology major. She changed her major to environmental studies with a psychology minor, and is now our part-time environmental educator. So being exposed to those opportunities really broadens the horizons for a lot of students in areas that they may not have considered previously. And then, of course, things that we have done for many, many years are adult education programs. We offer specialty topic programs. We offer strolling science seminars, which are our top-level deep dive programs. And we have special event programs as well, primarily for our members, but many of them are open to other demographics as well, including we're hoping to do a prescribed burn 101 member-only program in the next few months, where they'll come out and they'll learn everything it takes for a prescribed burn to be planned and executed in partnership, again, with our district colleagues. And then finally, we have lots of additional programs. We have launched this year some family-guided hikes. that are on the weekends that are designed for families with young children to go out and learn about the natural communities and the watershed. We've introduced a strolling science seminar for kids program. It's just like our adult program, but kid-sized for the 8 to 13 age students to come out and take a deep dive in topics that may be of interest to them. And then we've had this Nature's Peace program for several years where we bring out folks with early stage Alzheimer's, also sight challenge folks to come out and enjoy that 1,400-foot boardwalk at Bird Rookery Swamp and have an opportunity to be in nature with their caregivers and professionally trained guides. And we're hoping to be able to launch that with the Wounded Warrior program of Collier County later this season for at-risk veterans and those with mobility challenges as well. And then lastly, our community engagement. We are not only bringing folks out for public use on the trails and education programs on the trails, but we are going out into the community wherever we can at festivals and fairs, opportunities. I have been to probably a half dozen community associations over the last month and a half. We have been to, of course, Rotary and Leadership Collier and lots of other programs. We are constantly going out, not only talking about Crew Land and Water Trust, but more broadly, the importance of Crew as a whole. And that all that mosaic of different lands out there, whether Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary, the Crew Management Area, Collier County properties, Lee County properties, how they all work together for the watershed's functioning. And whatever we do, whether it is herpetology, whether it's birding for kids, whether it is soil rocks, whatever the program, we always bring it back to the watershed and the importance of the water-related ecosystem services that Crew provides to our communities that are essential not only for our health and well-being, but for the economic vitality of Southwest Florida. But of course, I couldn't come here without saying that we need things. So we are always, in need of certain things. We do want to improve the accessibility of our trail systems. We want to make sure that folks who are a little bit older, a little bit mobility challenged perhaps, can get out there and enjoy those trails like everyone else. That means we need more benches out on those trails, more picnic tables. We need to replace our outdoor classrooms. We had wooden benches that rotted through. We got to replace those. We need more transportation assets that limit our ability to get around to all the trail systems. I was at the Big Cypress Basin meeting a few weeks ago, and of course I had to point out that our volunteers are out there on their bicycles with chainsaws strapped to their back. Not the most conducive way to get out to the distant end of our trail systems. They do it, but I would prefer them not to have to do it. And of course, eventually we'd like to have a discovery or education center that we could bring folks to tell them about the Crew project as a whole. Not just about the Crew trails, but about the entire watershed and how it functions and how important it is for us to sustain it for future generations. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them, but I appreciate your attention and I would love to talk to you more about it after the fact. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob, and appreciate the presentation. Obviously, it's a very active place with a lot of different things for a lot of different types of recreation to be done, and it's much appreciated. Again, this is our first presentation, and we'll do a public comment opportunity. First, we will start here in the room, and then we will go around, and then after that, we'll go to the Zoom. So if you're out in Zoom land, now's a good time to raise your hand. And also, as we go around, if you just came in and you hadn't introduced yourself, would you just make a comment about who you are and who you might represent, even if you're not making a comment on Crew, okay? So we'll start to the left here. Anyone have any comments or questions for Bob? Just indicate that you have a question or a comment. Okay, seeing none, going around, and someone came in new, would introduce yourself, please.
Mark Barton, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers.
Okay, thank you. You, sir?
I'm John Menner. I'm just here as a public.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, last chance to ask Bob a question or make a comment. We will now go to Zoom.
Yes, we have Michelle Harper. Michelle, you can unmute.
Just a question about kayaking opportunities in Crew. Is there any?
Currently, we don't have any kayaking opportunities in Crew. That's something we could explore in the future, but we only have one location where that would be even possible, the lakes at Flint Penn Strand, and I don't think that we've ever explored that topic before. But I'll leave that up to my colleague counterparts to answer that.
Thank you, sir.
There are no other hands raised.
Okay, last chance. Yes, sir.
Dr. Lucas, that was an excellent presentation. I want to say we really appreciate our partnership that you mentioned in there with FWC, but what you're covering up there is absolutely amazing. There's so much going on that you are taking care of, and it's so important to have that outreach into the community, so thank you.
Thank you. Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Dan Cotter here. I just wanted to follow up. Hi, Michelle. I was the one who talked to you earlier today. Yeah, there is one, we can talk about that, Bob and I. There is one area in Flint Penn Strand that's got a big open water area that we could possibly entertain having kayak and canoeing there. And some of that might already take place there. I'm not sure, but yeah, but there is one area there. And yeah, Michelle, if you want to follow up with me later, we can talk about that.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, no more Zoom. Seeing that, we will move on to the next presenter, Michael Weston, the Forestry Resource Administrator for the Florida Forest Service. Michael?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. And thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the invitation here to talk about public use access and what we have going on Picayune Strand. And I've been with the Forest Service now coming up on 20 years, so pretty good experience all around. As an overview, we're not going to spend a lot of time going on over this, but Picayune Strand's roughly about 73,000 acres, located Collier County, just east of Naples, and really important as far as land acquisition and restoration work that's going on. So up to date, depending on the figures that you quote, about $600 million has been spent by district and other folks out there to restore the lands, basically remove the old road network that was put in, fill in the canals that were put in, and to restore natural communities. And we're going to talk about some of the stuff that would happen if that hadn't been done, and then the successes. So, the forest itself includes everything from strand swamp, various levels of degradation based on the drainage, fire history, to wet prairie, to got salt marsh and mangroves, and then also pine flatwoods, and we bridge Fat-Catchy Strand and Collier Seminole, as well as we border 10,000 islands. So, and there's some other conservation lands to the north that are starting to be purchased by Collier County. But I always joke with folks that we're the bouncer of the Everglades. We're kind of most folks' first experience in the Everglades, and if they make it through there and enjoy that, then they go out and explore other things. Because we're so close to Naples as it grows out and around the forest. So how do we manage Picayune Strand? So Florida Statutes 253.034, we manage it for multiple uses. And that's, trying to bring about, a coordinated management, balancing everything from, archaeological sites to biological resources. We obviously work with FWC for managing hunting out there. With the district working on, water conservation, hydrologic restoration, and also U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on a lot of the endangered species out there. But definitely a lot of people, a lot of alphabet soup in the management of Picayune. And it's trying to pick that best use. So we have a couple pictures here of fire. And fire's been an important part of Picayune Strand. Been a lot of, with the drainage, been a lot of, bad fires. And as the restoration increases, we've seen areas, convert from being really open to bad fire 6 months out of the year to, that window creeping down to about 3. So what does multiple use management look like? It's all these things. It's sustainable forest management. It's managed recreation. I've already mentioned the rest of it, but and the big goal is to balance all these things. So it's not just to restore the habitat, it's to allow people to get out there. It's not just to have good quality habitat for animals, but to allow for hunting opportunities. It's also, working with hunters, but also working with other recreation groups, whether it's, hiking, wildlife viewing, biking. And it's a very active forest. And obviously the management work that takes place. So in the last, I presented here in 2018, in the last 5 years, we've managed to plant about 250 acres back into South Florida slash pine in various parts. We also maintain about 133 miles of roads. About 40 of those are drivable in most seasons, and that's going to slightly change as the restoration project continues. We have a small staff, forester that's based there, and then 6 forest rangers and a senior forest ranger, and then the rest of us between a biologist, myself, recreation coordinator slash forester, we kind of parachute in and split our time between here and also Ocalacuchee Slough State Forest in Hendry County. And prescribed burning, got the picture, that remains an important part of the forest, although it is going to change as the restoration project continues. Here's natural communities. So the red you can see highlighted there, that's along the, I would say the right-hand side of that map. That's the core part of the Picayune Strand Restoration Project. Its goal is to restore, depending on which part you look at, but they're looking at upwards of 70,000 acres. They're trying to restore historical sheet flow. And a lot of that strand in there, especially in the kind of the northern half of that photo there, is extremely drained and it's extremely degraded. So what do folks ask on that? What's the restoration metric going to be? There's stuff in place that's monitored with the restoration project, but there's a long timeline on this, and it's going to take a lot of due diligence to see this project through to the end. We're starting to wind down construction. For my knowledge, it's looking like 2026 they'll have everything done. We just did a tour the other day of the Southwest Protection Feature that's along the farm fields on the southwestern side. The berm they're having to put in there, and but stuff's progressing as quickly as it can. And what I tell folks is, pretty soon we're going to have all the construction crews gone, and then we're going to have to keep working on the management of the forest. So I already mentioned the comprehensive Everglades restoration program, the Picayune Strand Restoration Project, and maintenance of wetlands communities is going to be a high part of this project when it continues. That also is going to impact public access. We've already had, Mike Elfenbeim's here. We already had a big push to get OHV and UTV access on the Miller part of the forest and headed east. And that was a big success. We've had, to my knowledge, no issues with folks driving where they shouldn't. And that's a great testament to the community that was able to get that access and to utilize it. That's going to become super important as time goes forward. On these roads that are degrading, you don't really take it for granted. For everyone that's been Everglades Boulevard, south of the Tieback Levee, about 64th down to Stewart, it hadn't been flooded. They were able to fill part of Fact Union Canal, turned on the pumps. Within 3 weeks, there was like 4-foot holes in the road because of the water in there. So those OHV access, that's going to be very critical to folks getting out there. especially during the early hunting seasons for access. And a lot of the other user groups, they've adapted to that. You know, the bikers, they don't go down as far south as early because the access isn't there. There isn't the roadway. We'll talk about one of the surprises at the end with one of the bike uses that's really found these roads to be very beneficial. But again, restoration project in conjunction with the Water Management District and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is going along and should be coming to a conclusion as far as the construction phase in 2026. So what are the couple of problems that, you know, we look at? Non-native invasive plants. You know, if anyone has $15 million laying around, you know, we could probably put it to use. You know, some of the invasive issues will be fixed with the restoration and restoring the sheet flow, but they're big needs, and we continue to seek with our partners through FWC, and the district is putting in a lot of money, but it's a constant issue. We live in a subtropical environment, so where their seed sources are present, it's going to be a constant, you know, needing to maintain these lands. And our native cabbage palm. So we can grow cabbage palms better than most other places. So we have upwards of 3,000 to 4,000 cabbage palms per acre. And what the forest was really headed towards without the restoration project, with the historic fires that had been there, and the way everything grew, was you're probably going to end up with a Kogan grass, Brazilian pepper, cabbage palm forest. The cypress would eventually been burned out, except for the deepest holes where they could subsist. But the forest overall was becoming crowded, and it was becoming very, very hard to manage. So it's a real testament to the cooperation of all the different agencies, you know, and really coming together to put together a solid plan that we're here today, and that this project, you know, is moving towards completion. So, you know, just our appreciation to everyone at the South Florida Water Management District, Big Cypress Basin, and everyone else that's been involved with meeting after meeting after meeting. And I think we still all like each other. So that's a good thing. And we're coming to a consensus on this stuff. So access. So, you know, currently we have everything from small hiking trail, Sable Palm hiking trail. It's actually part of our trail walking program that we have statewide. And we're going to be working on expanding that along some existing berms that have been left behind from some of the old agricultural operations. We currently have on the forest 23 campsites. Those are spread out in a campground that's near our office. We also have 12 hunting campsites we're able to add in to increase the access to hunters. So we used to have scramble camping. So you'd show up and basically you camp in our backyard. So it's the yard at the office. And we could have a lot of people camp there, basically until you couldn't fit anymore. So then we went to the Reserve America system. We had to have designated campsites. And so with that, we had to work to identify campsites and spread them out, et cetera. So, you know, at the equestrian campground now, we currently have the 12 hunt campsites. There's 6 primitive campsites, and there's 1 group campsite. The hunt campsites, 3 of those can accommodate RVs. And then we do have, we'll talk about some plans of what we're looking at doing. There's 2 campsites at Kirkland Hammock. So where that mess of yellow kind of ends with that north-south road and that blue trail comes in, that's where Kirkland Hammock is. Really remote site. It's an important watering hole for horses as they come across the forest. It's about halfway to the office. We have a pitcher pump there. Also a picnic site. The 2 campsites, very remote, very hard to get to during the rainy season. And during the dry season, people, it could be rough to get to as well with sugar sand. So the folks like it. You know, it has about a 20% occupancy throughout the year and pretty good. So we also have 22 miles of equestrian trails. That's our blue and yellow trail. We were able to actually work with Water Management District, so the tieback levee. Can't drive, public can't drive vehicles on it, but we do allow hiking and biking on it. That's been a pretty neat thing. It's almost like it's a raised, approximately about 12 feet tall berm. So I tell people it's like you're kind of floating through the forest above everything else. And early mornings, evenings, you can catch a lot of wildlife poking its head out of the woods. And that's been a pretty good thing. And as that, right now, the Fack Union Canal at the Fack Union Pump Station was filled in. And now that trail can bridge that canal. And so we're only waiting on Miller Canal to be bridged. And then we have 4 parking sites. One at our office, another at 52nd and Everglades for folks to park. And then 2 on Belmead with our trailhead. And also we have a small rock storage area for folks can park. But beyond that, folks can pull off on the side as long as they're not blocking a trail or a fire line and be able to park. And a lot of people do that. Here's just some pictures of, recreation on the forest, everything from equestrian to hiking groups, and then hunting. And some bikers do like to bike in the water. There's some question as to what that's going to do to your bike. But I'm one of those folks. I like getting out there as you're crisscrossing where the restoration is. And there's a lot of areas you can get to that folks otherwise won't when the pumps are operational. So our goal, we just had a land management plan that was approved in June of 2020. And so we're working towards what was identified in there. We have a carrying capacity of about 700 visitors per day on the forest. That's going to be pretty heavy outside of the hydraulically restored area. So that's going to be off of Sable Palm Road along the western side, and then also up near our office. And that's going to be everything from hunters, bikers, hikers, et cetera. And we're looking to meet their needs. Additional public access we're looking at. So they're looking at maybe some RV sites along 48th Avenue. One of the big things we've come across is if you want to put more RV sites in, you got to be able to site for restrooms, dump facilities, and be able to get power to them. And so that's been one of the challenges. Looking at some new dry camp sites once the restoration project begins down at Miller and 128th. Also at Jane Scenic Drive, where it intersects with Fakahatchee. Group camp near Miller Boulevard, again in that 48th, or 54th. And there's some broken wing campsites. There's some old concrete pads that are in there that would be suitable for some small camps during dry times of the year. But we've looked at doing a boat ramp. That kind of was put on hold. So that would be at Fack Union Canal and 52nd. We were working towards that, and we just had some other items we had to work after on our recreation. We're looking at having a support or a launch area at some of where the roads go over the tieback levee or into more of the restored area. And a lot of that's going to depend on how true a lot of the modeling becomes. Right now there's some plus or minus in what those water levels and hydro periods are going to be. And, what we don't want to do is set up something and invest a whole lot of money in something that then we can't get to. And so a lot of that's going to be that 2027, 2028. We're going to have to get out in the field and really check, rely on folks like you all that are using the forest to report back. This area is, almost impassable. You need a swamp buggy now, or, it really didn't change. And so that it'll be slow going there. Also have some plans for additional hiking trails, Port of the Isles, very high use day area on the southern end of the forest. Have a small hiking trail in there so that folks that come in, we have put in 2 small pavilions there in the last couple of years for day use folks, and that continues to be a heavily used area. Water Management District actually just did some recent bank stabilization there that really helped out to define the area and makes it, I think, a really good day use area that doesn't look forgotten as far as remote as it is. It's a good stopping over area if you're headed to, from the Miami area over to Naples, like there are some other roadside areas. It's just another one to add in. That's a good opportunity to visit the forest. But we also have, looking at, again, depending on what water levels do, Tomato Road. It's actually an elevated road that was important back when they were producing tomatoes off the forest in the 70s and 80s. It's still there. And it's not going to be degraded as part of the restoration project because it doesn't impede water flow. But it'll be looking at, is that a possibility of putting a trail in? And that goes down towards the southwest side over towards Collier Seminole State Park. And actually will connect in with the Southwest Protection Feature, the levee that's being built there. An outback hiking trail, so looking to connect Fakahatchee and Collier Seminole with a trail that'll be pretty wet most of the year. But for folks that are adventurous, if we can work with those through the issue, finding out where the trail is going to be with Collier Seminole and Fakahatchee, that'll be another trail. Bike trails, we have started marking, we have about 32 miles of bike trail planned. There's an existing bike network in there right now that's on old fire lines. And so there's about 3 different biking groups that we work with to make sure the trails are usable. And right now we're getting really dry. A lot of sugar sand out there, and the trails are almost, even with fat tire bikes, unusable. And then and water trails. So as restoration continues, looking at opportunities for marking seasonal kayak trails, et cetera. I already talked about lengthening Sable Palm Hiking Trail. I think, yep. And so here's a picture of what we're looking at for campground improvements along 48th Avenue. So that you could see the office in the center there. It's just to the north of there. And we're able to keep some of the roads in place to facilitate access there. They weren't critical to the overall restoration. So in conjunction with a whole bunch of folks, they were able to leave those in place. And again, I talked about the 32-mile bike trail. And there's just, neat gems on the forest. So the picture on the left there with the lake, that's part of the old Merritt Canal. So there's only enough material to fill so much of the canal. And so a lot of these ponds were left. And so we've been working with folks that fish them and hunt on them, et cetera, as far how do we provide good access to them without necessarily getting folks in trouble, stuck too much, et cetera. So that's ongoing. And we just completed our turkey hunt season. I haven't heard how successful it was, but I'm giving it thumbs up from someone, so that was good. And we'll actually be doing an Operation Outdoor Freedom hunt this coming weekend for turkey in the forest as well. And we have actually each of the hunters will have a guide with them, so that's been a really good program as well. We're to the question part. I really think the big part on the forest is we're working to take advantage of the outreach that we have access to. So whether it's bike updates from folks that use the forest that go out monthly to our kiosks and put information in there, and the forest office. So I manage Ocalacuchee Slough and Picayune Strand. Ocalacuchee Slough, I'm lucky, so don't like start, but I'm lucky to get 1 phone call there a day. Picayune Strand, we get 40 phone calls a day to the office asking about camping, recreation, et cetera. So the demand is out there. I think we're working hard with all our partners to make sure that we don't overwhelm the resource and keep it nice. But there's a lot of demand, and there's a lot of different directions the forest gets pulled in, and we're working to keep everyone happy, keep everyone safe, but allow folks to get out there and see all these resources we're putting in place, but also to enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I just noticed in this presentation, hiking, biking, camping, horse riding, hunting, wildlife viewing, bird viewing, boat ramps. And that's what this whole committee is about. This recreation meeting is everyone who recreates on the properties from Orlando to the Keys. And there's an incredible amount of opportunity in this particular presentation that's listed all those opportunities. And it's awfully important. Okay, we will, again, as normal, start left and move around for questions. Mike?
Mike Elfenbein. Mike, thank you. I was looking in my emails here. It was August 2018 when I reached out to you, and said, hey, we need to do something about access. And you and the district and the commission and even the county at the time worked really hard to make that happen. So thank you. It's a testament to your commitment to sportsmen and outdoor access. I took a couple of notes that I wanted to just kind of go over with you about access. And I know when we started the ORV program, we kind of worked around quotas and making sure that the ORV users that were there had a quota in hand to justify their presence. So I think this year, working with FWC, we have quotas now for archery season. Is that right, James?
I don't know off the top of my head, Mike. I would have to check.
So obviously, that's going to improve access, but as you mentioned in your presentation, as we continue moving forward with restoration efforts, access is going to be a lot more complicated. And so at the time when we discussed this, we mentioned that if things went good and there wasn't any concerns throughout the program, that we could explore those opportunities. So I'm grateful that this presentation was today. And some of those opportunities might include opening up Belle Meade, like the Kirkland Hammock area, up to off-road vehicle access. And as you mentioned, that Tomato Road, going down to the old farm fields. Those are really good opportunities. And as you stated, we haven't had a whole lot of violations. There hasn't been any abuse really to speak of. So I think that the precedent's been set to allow the access without those concerns. Hopefully, I think you see it that way too. Sable Palm access, there was some issues over the last couple of years where Sable Palm was kind of closed for one reason or another, and it kind of limited access, and those people coming in from Collier Boulevard had to kind of go all the way around. If we could work with you as stakeholders to make sure that we could keep that access open on a regular basis, that would be really good. A couple things I noticed out there during turkey season this year is there was less fire on the ground. And I know that as we go forward and as you discuss some of the challenges in managing the resource, it'd be great to see an uptick in fires as opposed to that downward trajectory. As you know, there's a lot of invasives there. Cabbage palms are starting to take over. Broken wing doesn't look like it used to. I noted that. I thought I'd bring it to your attention. So where the old Prairie Canal is, when you look across at Fakahatchee, the habitat over there doesn't seem to have changed much over the years. But when you look at the Picayune side of Prairie Canal, it's changed dramatically. It's clear we've had some intense wildfires. We've lost those pines, and the grasses are starting to change. That wiregrass is gone, and it's now all choked out with that little orange stringy vine that grows through it. So obviously, we can identify the problems, but I offer you that if the sportsman can help you to alleviate those issues and loan some resources, I don't think it's out of the question to do that. We've done those projects successfully elsewhere, and I think we can help you there too. So to not take up more time, I won't go through the rest of this, but those are the more important things I noted out of your presentation. Thank you so much for all your help and commitment over the years. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. We just continue around. Anyone else with a comment or a question? Yes.
Just a quick question. By the way, great presentation. I think a lot of hunters are concerned about what the restoration is going to do to deer and turkey populations. Is there any plans for ecological monitoring and assessing how that might affect their populations?
So we work with FWC. I mean, they do the game management lead, and we've had discussions off and on to keep track of those numbers, just as part of what's the restoration going to do to things. And so we'll keep that on our radar.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Mike, you asked about quotas at archery of Picayune, correct? So there is no quota for the archery. It's not.
So just to correct that, we did have a rule change proposal that went through last year. And so for the 2023-2024 season, it will be on a quota for the archery season at Picayune Strand. It's going to be a series of 2 back-to-back quota hunts. So same number of days of hunting as before, just it'll be 2 separate quota hunts with 145 each for each hunt. So we did plan to integrate that ORV access into the archery seasons for the 2023-2024 season.
Thank you. I probably should have mentioned we have a couple of people from the FWC that are actually here but not here. We have Justin Bingham and Cheyenne Walker who are listening and will come in and participate occasionally. Thank you.
Sorry, Newton, I apologize for not stating who I was. I'm Justin. I'm Justin Bingham. I used to be in Cheyenne's position, the South Region Public Hunting Areas biologist, so that was me providing that little extra bit of information.
Thank you,
Thank
Justin.
you.
Anyone else here? Or are we moving to Zoom? Anyone else here? Okay, let's move to Zoom.
Yes, we have Daniel Watson. Daniel, you can unmute.
Hello, it's Daniel Watson. Sorry I couldn't be there in person today. Appreciate everyone that did show up. Mike, I love the presentation. I just wanted to show my appreciation and gratitude for working towards the ORV opening for quota holders and also incorporating it into the new quota plan for the archery season, and thinking about sportsmen's access as we move forward with the restoration plans and just making it a little bit easier for the eyes and ears of the woods to get out there. That's all. Thank you.
Any comment?
No, thank you for Daniel for saying that. And again, multiple use, if we're not getting people out in the woods, then in the forest, I mean, it becomes that much more precarious. And we just appreciate everyone.
Thank you. Just checked, and there's no one else out on Zoom. Anyone else real quick before we move to the next? Yes, sir.
Vince Adams. I just am new to Florida hunting, and I just want to say that both the FWC has been fantastic to me personally, particularly a lieutenant named Jeff and his assistant named Boyce, who were just outstanding, never rushed me off the phone, explained everything to me in very great detail, and I just wanted to bring that forth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You'll find 99.9% of the time the officers and people at the FWC and at the district are very professional and appreciated. Okay, we will move to the next agenda item. The Cypress Creek R&A Farms Wetland Restoration, and Jim Schutte. Jim is a science supervisor for the Water Management District here. Might add, he can do great work in the forest, making them fantastic habitats. I've watched him at work.
Thanks, Newton. Good evening, everybody. I'll give you a little bit of an update on the Cypress Creek Wetland Restoration Project. It's up there in the Jupiter area, just north of Indiantown Road and pretty much adjacent on the west side of the Turnpike and I-95. We had a lease out there, an agricultural lease where they were growing mostly peppers, but also tomatoes. That lease expired in May of 2022. We decided to take advantage of that lease expiration and move forward with the restoration that we had planned for that area. The lease was for 586 acres. Of that, 317 acres were actually under agriculture, plowed up, disked, and planted. Taking a little bit closer look at the area, you can see on the right-hand side, that's I-95 and the Turnpike. The area was leveled for agriculture. They've got over 30 miles of ditches and canals out there in that 317 acres. All the supportive infrastructure. On the north side, underneath where that sticker says temporary pump, that area, that little square there is an above-ground reservoir that they used impoundment to store the water for the field. And also to the west of there, there's 3 miles of canals on the west of, if you're familiar with the area, on the west side of Gulfstream Road. 3 miles of canals from previous property use out there. That used to be a town called Rood over there, and prior to the development of the agriculture field, there were impacts from the town of Rood. So we'll be planning to get rid of those canals. On the south side of this field actually is the county line. So immediately south of this is Palm Beach County, and those canals from the town of Rood in Palm Beach County were removed and restored 15 years ago. So we'll be removing the rest of those historic canals that are in Martin County as we do this program. Also, through this, by getting rid of the agricultural field, getting rid of the AGI, we'll be restoring the historic flows that go into Cypress Creek and the South Fork of Cypress Creek. So here's another look at it. You can see internal of the field, they left some remnant wetlands out there. Those are old cypress domes. There's also wells, 5 wells out there that we're going to need to cap, wells for the agricultural irrigation system. There's contaminants in the soil. It's the main one that we're concerned about is chlordane. That's if you think DDT was banned in 72. Chlordane was banned for similar reasons in 82. So it was kind of the replacement of DDT, and it's very persistent out there. It's still heavily identified in the top 6 inches of the soil, so it really hasn't moved much. We'll plant native vegetation out there. This field actually represents 4% of the row crops in that basin that feeds into the Loxahatchee River. So removing that agricultural input into the river would be significant. So we'll be, again, removing the AGI, all the ditches, all the canals, reconnecting the wetlands out there, and then contouring the soils, the ground level, back to what we think it used to be as best we could, and I'll get into that in a moment. We still will have that Gulfstream Road there. We're not getting rid of that, but we'll improve the transport of the water underneath there into more historically accurate locations. And then with this, getting rid of this impediment to the natural sheet flows, Palm Beach County to the south is going to be doing some more efforts on their restorations, recognizing that they can now discharge or direct water across this field. So we're working hand in hand, and actually some of this field actually lies in Palm Beach County. So we're working hand in hand with Palm Beach County on this restoration. Also, if you think about it, the agricultural field use the water for irrigation. So in the dry season, they were holding water. In the wet season, they were getting rid of water, which is the exact opposite of what the ecological system used to be. So by restoring this area now, we'll be able to have more water feeding into the Loxahatchee River system during the drier season and less sediments, less water flowing out into the Loxahatchee River system during the rainy season. So that having that dynamic storage is going to be improving the water quality and seasonality of the flows to the Loxahatchee River. So you look up there at the upper left-hand picture, that's like a 1940s aerial of the Loxahatchee River, and the location of this field is identified, outlined there. You can see the basic outline of the field. So we took those historic aerials, and they gave you an idea. You can see the dark areas there. That's where the water used to flow. Those are the old sluways. And we had a very, very adept individual in the district, Rich Boda, was able to go in there, take a look at that, and notice that the darker that area, well, it's a black and white area, has nothing to do with elevations, but looked at it and said the darker areas look like they're lower areas, that it's deeper water, they've got less vegetation, and so he went through the process of, by the shading of those areas, came up with an elevation map that he thought would be appropriate. You could also look on the upper right-hand side in that red and yellow, that's LIDAR. That's aerial estimates of what the elevation of the land is out there. And LIDAR has, it's more up to date, but it's got its issues too of being able to look through vegetation and give you accurate, absolute elevations out there. But he used that red and yellow stuff too to kind of combine with what he used in the 1948s. And come up with what he thought would be appropriate, what used to be the elevations of that field out there. We also went out afterwards to kind of verify the LIDAR. There was no vegetation in the field. We were able to take the surveyors out there and get some points, elevation points, and all those points were within an inch of what the LIDAR said. So we had confidence, at least where the vegetation wasn't, with the LIDAR. So he was able to kind of take those two data points and combine them into that middle target elevations map and come up with what we would want to have to restore this area back to what it historically was, at least elevation-wise. And you can see in the lower left-hand corner, that's the higher areas. This whole area obviously is sloping to the northeast towards the South Fork of Cypress Creek. It's sloping to the east towards the Loxahatchee River, sloping north to Cypress Creek up there at the top of the picture. So that's where our elevations came from. And a little bit closer look at it, we'll be recreating those. So we're not creating a reservoir out there. We're not creating an STA out there. We're not creating a FEB out there or any of the other. We're making this back to our best estimate of what the elevations were historically so that the water will flow across here as it did historically. So we'll be creating marshes. The darker areas tend, again, to be the higher areas, and the lighter areas moving into the blue areas would be the deeper areas. So an estimate of this, of what used to be out there, what we want to have back out there again with the elevations would be creating different kind of habitats. So in the lower right-hand corner, that's going to be almost scrubby flatwoods, as it is right next to it in some of the areas that hadn't been impacted. That's kind of scrubby flatwoods right next to I-95. If you pay attention, there's some oaks in there and whatnot. 25% would be about mesic flatwoods. Those would be comparable to your Pine Islands in a flatwoods mosaic. 40% of it, the light green there, would be the hydric flatwoods. So that would be areas that would be holding water for 3 months to 8 months of the year and have shallow water, maybe 6 inches deep or so. The blue areas would be more of the main flowways. That would be getting into the shallow marshes. And then the 5%, most of that 5% is the remnant wetlands, the cypress domes that were left out there. So we're not really creating those. Most of those are still out there. In addition to the on-site benefits of this restoration, there's going to be some downstream improvements by not having that water cut off, by allowing these sheet flows to come into those areas. We estimate 650 acres immediately downstream, including the AGI and the areas surrounding the AGI, but also over 100 acres in the flood streams on the east of I-95. So both, you can kind of see there's two legs pointing to the west. The upper leg is Cypress Creek itself. The lower leg is the South Fork of Cypress Creek. So we will be sending water into both of those flood plains and giving those a little bit more water at the more appropriate times of the year. So funding for this, Water Management District has been putting in money as we are seeking partners in it. We've been doing the soils management plan, going out there, testing the soils. We planted the whole thing in Sudanese sorghum. And what the attempt to do here is not only to provide some kind of vegetation so that exotics don't take over and erosion doesn't happen, but also with those organic chemicals having carbon in the ground, which there wasn't too much from the farming system, that was all removed. Having carbon in the ground helps tie up the chlordane. As you know, the carbon filters, it works similarly with the organic chemicals. So we planted the sorghum. We'll be mowing that down, disking it in, incorporating that, doing some more testing, and making sure that this area is safe when we do the restoration. We've been out there treating the exotic plants. We'll be removing some of the septic systems that are out there, capping the wells that I mentioned earlier, and then we installed that temporary pump just to make sure that no water was standing on the area until we were sure the location was safe. We are also working with Fish and Wildlife Commission to their ARES program, and they are very interested in providing, we're still working with them, trying to get we've got an application in with them for $300,000. So they're very interested in doing the contouring of the field and also the revegetation. Depending on how much money we have will dictate how quickly we move with that restoration of planting native vegetation. But also, as you can see, it's surrounded by natural areas, so there will be a lot of immigration of native plants out there as long as we control the exotics. Also, we're working closely with Ducks Unlimited, trying to get, we have an application with them that's in the works. And they're basically, I had a conversation with them this morning to kind of go through, their engineer was out here last week, a couple weeks ago, just to update our numbers. I got some of the numbers on the estimate of maybe $2 million to do this restoration. That was a pre-COVID estimate. And so they're going with their engineers and looking at ballpark of $2.5 million, plus our $500,000 to do exotic plant control. So they're updating their numbers. Their engineers are working on how to make this happen. We've already got all the permits that are required to do this restoration. We're good to go as soon as we have some of the more money to provide to this. One of the great, I've done quite a bit of projects with Ducks Unlimited. They do the NACA grants for us, so it's kind of a one-stop shop that they do the application, they handle the money, they hire the contractors, they do the engineering, and we say thank you. And previous projects, they have been limited to $1 million. That's why I have $1 million here. Apparently, not as many people have been looking towards NACA lately for funding. They have a little bit more money, and it wasn't all used up previously. So they've upped that to a maximum of $3 million. So hopefully, as we go through the process, we'll be able to find enough money to finish this project. So they'll, as I said, they're interested in anything that ARES doesn't fund and that we're not already doing. So just quick timeline. Again, the lease expired in 2022. July, we dissed the field, planted that Sudanese sorghum. The Sudanese was, it's a non-GMO So what that means, it doesn't have as much structure in it as some of the sorghum that's made to be a little bit more durable. That way, we picked that one so it would decompose. It produces the most biomass we could find and decomposes the best of what we could find. We got all our permits again. We've actually gone out there, done some reconnecting of the natural water, the surrounding waters back to the historic flowways. So we actually are moving forward on some of the reconnections that we can safely do. March, we're going to be, March is running out, maybe April. We'll be out there mowing, disking the field, herbiciding the ditches for the first time. Torpedo grass is our main concern out there. So we'll be moving with that, and then leave that carbon sit in the ground for a little while so that it could tie up the chlordane and do some more testing, and hopefully we'll be good to go after that. Capping wells, removing the septic, the remaining parts of the infrastructure. 2024, putting in here that we'll be working on the AG, if we get the Ducks Unlimited funding, targeting that to fill in the western canals and the AGI and put in the road culverts. Starting on that just to give the soil management plan a little bit more time in case there's anything else we need to do for the chlordane. And then the next year, our permit is good through 2025. So we would target the next year in 2025, dry season this time of the year, to fill in the ditches, do the field contouring, and start the vegetation plantings. And that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Jim. Just a quick question. How many black-belly whistling ducks have you seen out there?
Not many black bellies, but I will say this is a place that I've seen the most wood ducks and pairs of wood ducks. I don't know why they like this area, but pretty much every time I go and see a couple pair out there.
Well, of course, you know, United Waterfowls of Florida works very closely with Ducks Unlimited. We're kind of the advocate politics workers, but most of us have been DU before DU was cool. And we're a very advantageous situation for Florida because we have Nick Wally and Adam Putnam running Ducks Unlimited up in Memphis right now. And of course, Memphis is my hometown. And so Ducks Unlimited has really stepped up big time the last several years. And I'm glad to see this project because this is one right here in our own backyard, and it's very much appreciated. And hopefully we'll see some duck hunting out there in the future when you get kind of settled down. Okay, after I've made my comment, we'll go around and see if anybody else has a comment. Starting on the left as usual.
I've got a comment.
Mike?
Yeah, so very cool. I wasn't even familiar with this place, but I noticed your comments about planting sorghum, and I wondered if there wasn't a way, working with all of these outdoor enthusiasts in the room, that we couldn't time the planting of that sorghum for like mid-June with a mowing right around the end of September and maybe a couple of dove hunts, youth dove hunts going once. There's a really good opportunity. You guys are already doing the work, and you might just have to change your planting schedule a little bit, but 500 acres of planted sorghum would make one heck of a dove shoot, just putting it out there. I'd love to work with you on that if you're interested.
If that's sorghum, I can guarantee you it's going to be covered up with dove and ducks. I mean, you're just...
Yeah, I'm sure Dan will be looking into that for you, but one of the issues is right next to I-95, so...
Okay. If you're a duck hunter and you hear sorghum being planted on a wetland, you know, you just know what's going to happen there. It'll be clouds and clouds of beautiful ducks. Okay, going around. Who else? Let's see.
Richard Martinez. I just want to say, live in Jupiter Farms, so familiar with the area, go biking through there every week or so, and super excited to see this project. It's really a gem to have this area where so much development is happening around. So I think projects like this are going to be super important to the area in the future of just the ecology of the area. And yeah, there's a lot of whistlers in there. They come right over my house and go straight over to Cypress Creek.
Yeah, Jim.
Jim, great presentation. I really appreciated how you showed us how you took the way to rebuild the landscape to the historic way. And if I understood you correctly, you're going to bring the yellow iron in there, and instead of the districts, instead of flattening the land, you're going to be terraforming it and bring it back to restore some of that elevation to create those natural flowways and natural high ground areas.
Yeah, and the system that we've got.
Sounds like a rattlesnake in that one.
That's better. Is this one working? Yeah, the system is that we have, agriculture has evolved so much now that you could program in the shapefile, the GIS shapefile into the tractor, and you got GPS units on the tractor, and you're basically going back and forth and printing out the elevation of this as you go back and forth. So the technology is there that we actually, the product that you saw on the screen can actually be put in the tractor and it'll be printed.
That's great. A great use of technology and a great application of creative science to rebuild that the topographic digital work you showed. Thank you.
Anyone else at the table? Yes, Bishop.
Also, Jim, I'd just like to thank you. You're always good at finding the funding somewhere. I give you credit for that everywhere I go, I want you to know. You're probably one of the best grant writers there ever was.
I'm still looking for this 2 million, but they say it's coming. It's in the mail almost.
Just a quick question. What about access to this property? I know where it is, obviously, but is there a paved road to it at all, or is it just farm road?
No, you can get a day use permit to go down Gulfstream Road, and you can access it today. There's nothing preventing you from doing it. Now, they might have a few more rules in Palm Beach County about bicycles and that sort, but you can drive right up to it and walk it right now.
That's sometimes a difficult problem on these pieces of property. I mean, we have the extensions of the STAs along the refuge, and getting to them can be an interesting experience, or even getting permission to get to them can be an interesting experience. Thank you, Jim, for another great opportunity. I know we'll be there in another 5 years or maybe less. Okay, we're ready to move on to the summary of the STA waterfowl and alligator hunting season. Every time you say the word STA, the Zoom will light up. This is James Harbaugh, who's the recreation planner here at the district, and I've had the pleasure of working with him since he started this job, and we got off to a great start, along with Mike Cheek over there, to carry forward a lot of work that went with Jerry Krentz, and it's very important to see the district have two really good people dedicated to this work. So, Jim?
Thank you, Newton. Okay, well, there's my information up there. Like I said, the rec planner. Big overview. Last year, the construction projects are starting to wind down. We had STA 1W West was reopened. Both the expansion area and the original STA were open for hunting for both alligator and for waterfowl. STA 2 remained largely closed for construction. That's an ongoing project out there. There's a lot going on. STA 3-4, there was in one cell, cell 1A, they have a revegetation going on, delamination, and then STA 3-4 also in cell 2A, they had a very similar mid-season that they started doing some work out on that one as well. So there was some construction in there, but not like like STA 2. 5-6, there was the same construction, C-139. FEB is got the reroute, so everybody's coming through Bloomberg, but largely it was opened. Overall, despite all these different challenges, the hunters were consistently the same type of success rates. Excuse me. So I started doing graphs last year, and this year I'm going to continue with those graphs and try to give you some idea of how I come up with some of these numbers. This is not meant to be a specific for regional up and down. This is just kind of a snapshot of how did the season compare to last year and the years before. You have the scheduled day access, which is a number that is some STAs have a Friday, Saturday, Sunday hunt. That'd be over in STA 1 West, whereas some are only Saturday hunts like STA 2. Some have Friday and Sunday hunts. So those numbers are variable because of that. And the seasonal or the yearly differences are because of different holidays when they fall on like a Friday or a Saturday when the opening of a waterfowl season. So those numbers do vary a little bit from year to year. And then also because of closures, you look at these 2 years here, 21, 22, we did lose some access points, so we did lose some of the days as well. That's kind of a rundown from that. Hunter days, what that is how many hunters were on the property for the entire season. So you got your group that comes out there, there's an individual with his guests hunting, and that is the number of hunters that were out there, and it was reflective of the same with the hunting days. Harvest, that's a simple number. We do have a biologist that do gather harvest information, and it's reflective of the same. The success rate is basically a number when you divide the harvest into the harvest days, and you come up with a number. Doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's kind of indicative to what the success is. So figure each hunter shot 2.9 or 2.01 ducks per attempt. And that kind of spells out in the graph, and you can see that it goes back and forth. When we had less access, it went down a little bit. But generally, 2000, last year's season, there's not much of a big difference from one year to the next year. If you have a significant dip, there would be something going on. So it's kind of a good way of looking at it. Don't think of it as a, there's lots of different variables that are involved in that. Seasonal, hurricanes, a lot of different factors can affect this, but it's a snapshot for the entire year. This one I broke down, STA 1 East, or not 1 East, 1 West, the expansion area, and 1 West, just to kind of give an idea between the two of them, since they are more or less considered different types of hunts, different areas. It's also the only one we have a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday hunt, so there's a lot of numbers there, and it's neat to compare the two of them, I think. If you look at the expansion area, which is coming into its own, with a lot of SAV starting to really blossom in there. It was newly opened 3-4 years ago. The SAV was just getting a foothold, and it's now holding its own. There is a 1.54 average for the last 3 years in there. This year, a slight tick up, significant, not necessarily. But the one thing is the trend line throughout the entire season was real consistent. There was, the people were getting in there hunting. When they went in there and hunted, the numbers were up. When the numbers were down, it was because there was few people in there hunting. Indicative same with them over at 1 West, except for the beginning, for some reason, that's basically cell 5B. There weren't a lot of ducks in there, and that shows with the harvest being lower than the number of people that were in there. It can be speculative. This is around the hurricane season. There was a lot of water on the landscape. There was there's other habitats out there, rice fields, et cetera. Did that have some type of effect? I'm just speculating on that. There's no way of saying, what the impacts were without doing a bigger study on it. Yeah, the water levels, what did I write for notes here? Yeah, I covered everything. Yeah, that's pretty good. STA 2, again, we got the success rate or the hunter harvest effort. That's showing a little dip in 2021. And this year it's right back in line with everything else. We did have a lot of construction in here, so we had fewer hunting participation just because of reduced quotas. But the harvest was consistent over the last 2 years. The one dip I did notice in here is going to be in the 2021 years when there was some beginnings of trying to get the SAV to be established in here, the cell 3. And since then, the veg management team has really taken it to a next step, and the SAV in there has rebounded fantastically by creating smaller cells, and that's indicative of the last 2 years of that success. We did definitely see a steady incline of harvest success over the 1 year where they were having some problems with water quality and lower SAV, wind events. These things had an adverse effect on the SAV in there. We did have hunting opportunities over in cell 4, which is over on this side. That was a direct result of being able to look at the maps closer and then just kind of navigate getting the hunters into these areas via a ditch. And I don't know, we don't have any breakdown of how much more that added to the hunting opportunities, but it was definitely there. Speaking of wind events, we did have a major wind event with the hurricane. Cell 7 saw a significant amount of cattail that was blown up against the shoreline and removed. I know that breaks your heart, Newton. But that will probably open up some hunting opportunities for the future because access will be a little bit easier in there. We weren't able to get that hunt added into that cell added just because it was mid-season when this kind of happened. Things were in place, a little complicated to try to communicate this to the public and try to pull it all off. Micromanaging mid-season is not the best thing to do. So we left it as it was, but next year I think we should have some opportunities in there as well. Again, like I said, the hunter harvest effort is basically pretty similar, nothing real major dips or anything like that. STA 3-4, we did have a closure here. There was not much opportunity up in that way anyways. In cell 2A, I mentioned there was also a closure in there mid-season, knowing that we just did not have any quotas in there. So the 2 cells that basically had the hunts were going to be in the southern portion here, and then one of the pasta cells. Again, the harvest is showing that the numbers are consistent. We have a quota set. The quotas are working in that we're not showing a big fluctuation of hunting success overall being compromised by flooding all these people in there. So this is working, I think, pretty good. One thing I did notice, if you look a little bit back in 2018, 2019, beginning of this, when SAV was just getting established, the cattail is getting thicker in there, and we're finding that the cattail is actually probably protecting the SAV, which then produces a better hunt quality in there, more food, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of the balance, too much cattail from a hunting perspective, but it's good from the perspective of SAV management and our water quality. So it's kind of a, try to find that balance. STA 5-6, everybody's favorite. This STA has been seeing has been changing dramatically. The vegetation in there is different from all the other STAs in that it has a heavy component of spatterdock and a lot of floating vegetation festivals, vegetation, FAV, and that was compounded again this year by the hurricanes with water releases from the local drainage ditches from coming off the agriculture fields, heavily inundated with lettuce. When they released their water out of those canals, it ended up in into this SAT or STA. So there's a lot of challenges going on there with the vegetation. So we did a major reduction in the quotas this year. Hunter days only 450, which is nearly 2/3 of what original, but the number harvested was pretty consistent across the board. So the quota reduction did keep the quality of the hunt up. So the people who were able to get in there were harvesting waterfowl, and the success rate went up a little bit as a result of that as well. So the quotas, while sometimes there may be some disdain with them, they do work in trying to produce the best hunt quality with the given habitat and the given areas that we have. Again, we did have the closure off of Deer Fence Canal. We went up to Bloomberg Road. That seems to be an adjustment that has been going well for the past few years. Everybody knows where that's at. That will probably continue for another year. C-139 is still being constructed. A1 FEB, don't have any numbers on this. There is a quota of 100, but we don't have a check station. You get in there and hunt wherever you can. So without that, I don't have any type of data to report on that. We did have a closure over on the northwestern and western side, or is that east? Okay, dyslexia. Western and northwest, this side over here. And so, but there was still a lot of access in here. It's a large body of water, and I don't have any numbers what I was able to get from that. So it is what it is in there. It's a place that the people who do know how to hunt it do quite well. And it's just a little daunting because it is such a large body of water as well.
There are no ducks in FEB.
No, there's no
no
okay.
ducks out there.
So in other words, don't go hunting there because that's where Newton hunts. Waterfowl specialty hunts. We did have 2 Wounded Warrior events during the regular season at the end of the season. Newton has told me that this was a fantastic experience for these gentlemen, and it was a great event again this year. This is one of those things that our partners work with, and it's great that we have them doing that. The federal youth hunt is a federal date outside of the normal season framework. Again, the United Waterfowlers had a couple events associated with that and hosted a lot of new hunters, and a lot of youth were able to participate. Now, this is some unpleasantries here. This is going to be a little bit of a reminder. We do have access points, and it's hard to police hunters sometimes. And we did have some areas where people were going in unauthorized areas. There was about 10 of them total that we were able to document. Both of them, most of them are happening in STA 1 West in the expansion area. Across on the westernmost edge is that big canal that goes through there. And then over on STA 3-4, there's a structure right here. This is directly downstream of a sampling point. So this is a potential for a circuit to develop over time. It's not. It's a cause for concern and reflects on the hunts. This is the one thing that we need help internally from the hunting community to spread the word that this is not an acceptable practice, and what we're trying to do is to try to keep these open for hunting for the future. So it's right in the statutes that unless incompatible with restoration goals. This does not have to be incompatible. We can do this. We just need to be a little more cognitive of it and say something to our fellow hunters. The concern is we're creating a parallel to flow tracks, which then will create a short circuit. And in particular, this one here where I've got the highlight on there, that is right by some of the sampling equipment. So that can have potential of skewing the Q-bell. If you look right here, you can see this trail coming in. This is parallel to flow, and somebody accessed right off the levee here, and it's coming across this one. This is the same thing, right through the middle of the bulrush through there, and through the middle of the bulrush there. I got a bunch of photos that I continue. I have more photos than just these, but these are some of the best ones I have to highlighted. This one I saw, when I drove by there, I saw a bunch of bluebills out there, and I'm like, I bet there's a trail leading to it because it's just so tempting, and there it was. So it's hard not to be tempted. So with that, let's go to alligator hunting. Hurricane Ian did have an effect on the alligator hunting this year in that we did close the properties or the project areas, all the properties actually throughout the district from September 26th through October 3rd. The hunters, alligator hunters, only missed September 30th through the 2nd, and FWC offered a refund to certain hunters that were not able to fulfill their tags. They had to have 2 unfulfilled tags and also resided in the FEMA disaster area. So we discussed trying to extend the alligator season, but it conflicted directly with the waterfowl season. We couldn't have both at the exact same time. So it was the lesser of the two evils. And FWC found a way of making it more palatable. STA 2, there was no hunt in there this year with all of the different construction that we have going on, the refurbishment projects. This is basically just a comparison from last year to this year with the numbers showing that there was a big uptick in STA 1 West. We did have a little bit of a hiccup with trying to get the quotas secured before all the construction data, or we weren't sure what was going to be open, what was not going to be open, so there was a portion of the STA 1 West that was not open this year. And I think that's probably why we see a big uptick in the 1 West this year compared to last year. STA 2, no hunts. 3-4, slight downtick. Generally, overall, there is a little bit of a slight downtick, and that could be reflective of the fact that there was a weekend that was lost. So it's not a dramatic change. It was the success rates were still very consistent from last year, minus the one weekend that they weren't able to get in due to the closures. STA 1 East, there will be a hunt in there this year, and likely the quota is going to be 100. Still working with FWC on to secure the actual number for that. Everybody knows that there's a lot of gators in there. It's just that once you start hunting them, they're going to scatter. So it's going to be interesting hunt in there. I'm even thinking about putting in for it. This is just another way of looking at the same numbers specific to each STA. Just kind of give a visual. You got a quota and the success, quota, success, quota, success. So again, it's real consistent compared to the amount of alligators that we have in there. 65, 75% success or tag fulfillment is probably a better way of saying it. Specialty gator hunting. This is actually just last weekend. This is taken out at Dupuis. The kids out there had a fantastic time at 5-6. This year, there are going to be a hunt at each one of the STAs. I think we've got 1, 2, 3 coming up in the next couple of weeks for 4 total. The Wounded Warriors had a hunt out at STA 5-6, and they had a fantastic time out there as well. That is a little more intense. They're after trophy gators. 10-foot plus is generally the number they're looking for. I went out there with Will Little, and they had an individual who had a visual impairment. I did not hear how he did, but I'm sure that they made it work. So that group is very grateful for the opportunities as well, just as much as the youth hunt program is. And with that, I have now opened myself up to bombardment with questions.
Thank you. FSCA did the gator hunt, right?
What was that?
The gator hunt, the youth hunt that just happened, that was you, Bishop, your group? Who was it? Okay, all right, there we go. I just want to be sure somebody gets credit, because that's a hell of a lot of work, guys.
That was Billy Boatwright, yes.
We know how much work there is to get in these duck hunts, and the gator hunts are also a lot of concentrated work, so it's very much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, we are at the point where we start here around the table. Any comments or questions? Boy.
Yes.
Well, that's nice. Oh, sorry. Yes,
I got one question. Mark Barton. I noticed in your, the slides where you were showing the success numbers for each of the STAs, there's a drop in hunter days, even though the number of quotas remain the same, and this was consistent around 2020. And I think that that's because the morning lottery system was taken away, and the new system that's in place is very difficult and not very user-friendly. Is there any thought to maybe getting that lottery system back? I know there was some concerns initially because of COVID, because of the big crowds that were showing up every morning.
Right. Excuse me. Yeah, from what I understand, that the way that the quotas are going to be working, there, it's a point of it's a constant point that they're trying to perfect that. I don't have the answers as to what they're doing this year, going forward, but I do know that there's a lot of discussion as to how we can make improvements upon it. That is still in the wash and needs to come out, and I don't have a whole lot of answers for that. But definitely it's on the radar that we want to try to address this because it is something that needs to be, I don't want to say necessarily fixed, but altered so that it's more palatable to everybody.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then the other comment I wanted to make is about the short circuit issue. And you and I have talked about this a little bit, but I think that that problem can relatively easily be solved by creating trails that are perpendicular to the flowways to make it basically easier for hunters to get to different parts of the cells. Because, I mean, if you duck hunt, you know there's ducks in a spot, you're going to do anything you can to get there.
The temptation is very great.
Exactly. And when you have a canal, you know, whether it's
That's easy to paddle.
The outflow canal, that's where we don't want people to be, because if the, like you showed, if the shortcuts are right there at those flow structures, that's where we're sampling. You know, if you can make trails that avoid those areas and you make it easy enough that hunters don't have to use those outflow canals, I think the majority of hunters will stop doing it.
We do have a lot of internal discussion as to exactly that point, and what is the best way of putting them in. We did have an area that we put an area in, mashed down the cattail with the airboat, and what happened with that is the cattail lay down in a way that traveling through it was not the easiest. In fact, it made it more difficult. That's a lesson learned. So we're looking into other ways of doing that and getting a little more precise with some of our placement of these. And how we're going to do it, that's still up for discussion. You know, there's a couple of different ideas that we're floating around right now, and I don't want to let the cat out of the bag of what we want to do. But we do have some ideas, and we're probably going to be getting up in the helicopter and then more precisely giving locations with these. It's difficult to use a drone to do it. When we try to use the drone, you don't have a reference point. Okay, hey, this would be a great point. Where was I? Because now I'm on the levee and I can't see it. That's some of the growing pains we're going through is, how much time do we need to invest in this? And I discovered I need to spend a little more time in this with the planning. So we're going to start earlier. And we've got some of the veggie management team going to be working closely with me on that. But I definitely would welcome some other ideas as well. I think that one of the great ways of doing it would be to have hand crews go out there. And I see volunteer hand crew being a really good resource.
Well, and I think hunters probably be
Yes.
willing to do that, so.
Right.
Yeah, if you need any help with that, I'm very familiar with the STAs and, I'm
Yeah.
an avid hunter, so.
Yeah.
I'd be happy
We,
to make it work
first, what we
somehow.
ought to do is we need to identify where would be the best opportunities for that, because it's difficult from the levee to figure it out. And it takes time and money to get up in the air in a helicopter, and then to dedicate that time to that. That is some of the challenges, and now we're starting a little earlier, so we'll be able to schedule that in a little bit. We're going to be more in tune to scheduling it, so.
Great, thanks.
Justin, I think, would like to make a comment.
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, this is Justin Bingham. I'm the assistant coordinator for the Public Hunting Areas program for FWC. And I just wanted to follow up to the first question a little bit. We are early on in the planning process at this point, but I just wanted to let that individual know that we do have a meeting scheduled, I believe, for next week to talk with district staff on the standby process and other SDA-related issues as well, not just standbys, but other things that we will be discussing. And then we do have a meeting planned for to meet with some of the waterfowl stakeholders to address their concerns. We just want to make sure that we have a good, well-rounded sample of the public feedback that's out there, and that we are in a good place as far as our cooperative relationship with South Florida Water Management District. We want to make sure that we're all on the same page with what we feel can be done and what should be done. And then we want to try and get on the same page as much as possible after that with our waterfowl stakeholders. So we know that there's always going to have to be some compromises here and there. We can never make everybody happy, but I feel like if everybody's, somewhere in the middle, they're like half angry, half okay, then usually you're in a pretty good place. So we're trying to do the best we can to work with the district and work with our stakeholders to get that taken care of. And if necessary, also we have in our plans to do a public commenting tool so we can get widespread public feedback on some of the proposed changes that we might have for the STAs this year. Even though we are early on in the process, so I can say at this point that we have decided, and I'm sure that the district will be happy to hear this as well. I haven't discussed it with them yet, but we at FWC are completely on board with going away from the first come, first serve process for issuing the standbys. That did not go, there was some back and forth between our two agencies and the public, and we wanted to try something that we felt like was going to be the simplest thing possible, but we were upfront from the beginning that if it didn't work up to our standards and it didn't work up to the public standards, that we wouldn't continue with that process. And so we decided that we're not going to continue with the first come, first serve strategy for the standby drawings. So we will be moving to whatever it looks like, it will be a random drawing for those standbys. But I can't really speak to much more than that because the details are yet to be decided. As I explained, we'll be talking with the district and also with our waterfowl stakeholders moving forward. But we plan to have that all figured out this summer so that we can talk about it at the next Recreation Forum meeting and kind of present to the public what our plans are for the 2023-2024 season. As far as issuing standbys and the other things that we discussed, I'm sure that the district will have more things to add about what construction projects and things like that will be taking place at the STAs for the upcoming season. But as far as the permitting and strategies to access the marsh and habitat stuff, we plan to work those out with the district soon and also with the public and hopefully get everything to the point where we can please as many people as possible while remembering the primary purpose of the STAs. So.
Thank you, Justin. United Waterfowls, we met with the vegetation staff here right after season, and good people. They have a horrific challenge. It's I can say it, most of you don't even know what it is, Q-Bell. Drew definitely knows what it is. These SDAs are designed to do one thing, and that is to clean the water coming off the EAA and some lake water up to the point to keep them hydrated, to somewhere between about 13 parts per billion phosphorus. The water they get off the EAA is about 80, the water coming out of the lake's 120. And that grows cattails. It's an incredible challenge to get these things to work. So, and there's nobody that screams and hollers about access and levees with no parking spots that are close to where the ducks are, and the guys have to paddle a half a mile to get there. And that's what creates that problem that we're looking at. But the district people have done tremendous, because since that meeting, what I'm heard here tonight has been an incredible step forward, that the FWC and the people are trying to work together and solve at least the access problem as much as they can without doing any damage to the reason why these SDAs, $1 billion were spent. And right now, the SDAs are not working. We remember when they did work pretty well. They were getting 18 parts per billion out the bottom. Unfortunately, they dumped a lot of lake water in them, and then we got the storm, a fall storm, and the SDAs simply haven't recovered, and we're having to do a tremendous amount of construction. I mean, just almost rebuilding whole parts of them. So it's a difficult challenge, and we have to understand that. I know everybody, the SDAs is a hot button all the time, but the district has to meet that Q-Bell by 2026. So we just have to understand that access is going to always be colored by that challenge that the district has. That's a federal court rule, it's an order. Okay, anyone else? That's Bishop.
Newton, Mike Elfenbein, listening to what you're saying and trying to think outside the box, it'd be cool if you had some kind of STA mud motor poker run, maybe line up those mud boats at your locations and run them up and down the STA perpendicular to your canals, and not have to spend your money and give a bunch of guys who like to run their mud boats in the STA the opportunity to do that. And two birds, one stone, right?
That's the first time I've heard of a mud boat option, but yeah, that's probably pretty aggressive. Something to consider.
Beats picking it up by hand.
It sure does, but at the same time, the narrower these are, in some ways, the better. Where you pick through them and then you're dragging your kayak behind you. The hunters are already kind of doing that on their own, creating these trails, and they get down to a certain width, and then they don't maintain much beyond that width.
Hey, Mike, also, you would not get a mud boat through there. There's no way. The cattails are way too thick. And also, veg management is never going to be okay with us using any propellers in the water. No propellers.
Interesting proposal, though.
Cool idea.
Bishop Wright wearing the Florida Sportsman hat at this moment. With that said, James, I just want to thank you for all your time you dedicated to the youth hunting program. A lot of people don't realize what it takes to make sure all that access is guaranteed by changing out combination locks, but yet making sure that we're not going to get locked out, or we're not going to lock out somebody else, and we're talking, I don't know, what are we up to, about 10 hunts in there now, and I know it's a challenge to get in there and make sure that you take it off, take it on, and everything like that, but we really appreciate your time and effort, and I know we had some different issues last year, but I'll say you caught on fast, and you got us in and out of there pretty good this year. And on the other note, I just want to say that there was a time when FSCA was invited to the stakeholders meeting, and we're still waiting for that invitation back, and we'd like to be a part of the stakeholders meeting. Cheyenne and both James, we used to participate in that, and we want that seat back.
We could probably make that happen.
Okay, James.
Thank you, and I just want to say, I hear you loud and clear on that.
Okay, anyone else? Zoom?
There are no hands raised.
Oh. We must have answered all the questions. All right, we'll move on then. Thank you very much. Mike Cheek, Recreation Project Manager, Water Management District, Recreation Facility Design Updates. We already had a discussion about EAA2 Reservoir, boat ramp.
Okay, hi, how you doing? I'm just going to go through a brief overview of some upcoming projects that the district's working on and the recreation facilities that we're going to be conceptually looking at in the near future here. So we'll talk about Lake Hickpachee Phase 2 expansion. This is in Glades County. S-193 navigation lock replacement and pedestrian crossover. This is on Lake Okeechobee. That's a weird order there. Lower Kissimmee Basin STA. We have some new campsites at 4Es on the Kissimmee River. The Kissimmee River navigation signage update, that'll be upcoming soon, that work out there. We have a new bathroom facility being installed at Hickory Hammock Equestrian Center on the Kissimmee River. And we have some beautiful new trash cans at S46. Okay, so first, Lake Hickpachee Phase 2 expansion. It's in Glades County, a remote area southwest of Lake O. And what it's going to be is a 2,200 acre impoundment to help attenuate high flows out of the Caloosahatchee River and store runoff out of the C19 basin. So during high flows or particular water levels, water can be pumped out of the Caloosahatchee into the cell 1 here. Water filtrate through here in cell 1, which will be about 4 feet deep, into cell 2, which will be about 2 feet deep, depending on the season, obviously. And then filter back into phase 1 FEB, which is already existing out there on the ground, and then filter back in through the spreader canal into the historic Lake Hickpachee area. And as far as recreation facilities, there'll be a parking lot here at the north end off of US Highway 27, boat ramps into both cells, public use bathroom there, and information kiosk about the goal of the property, what the purpose of the project is. And then down this levee here, there'll be a bump out into one of the cells, and the picnic shelter, shade structure at the bottom there. And expected recreation opportunities there will probably be an extended long weekends, maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday perhaps, like the A1 FEB, hiking, biking on the levees, fishing within the cells, boating, most likely non-combustion engines, so trolling motors, with no trailer access, just putting it in the back of your truck and putting it into a cell. And then once it comes online, we'll assess for future waterfowl and alligator hunt possibilities. And just to give you an idea what these things look like on the ground, this is a filled-in corner of an STA cell at Lakeside Ranch. It's just this shell rock, about 120-foot radius circle, semicircle there into the corner of the cell. Allows some space for parking during special events. You have the picnic shelter there, so people could seek shade when they're using that levee for hiking or biking. And then the boat ramps often look like this articulated mat design where they lay mats on the ground and fill in the gaps with gravel. And this is just an example of an information kiosk there on the left with the vault bathroom in the background. Again, these information kiosks just talk about the goal of the project, why it's there, and give you a map of access and rules and regulations and things. And these are these really nice concrete vault toilets similar to that are used on the National Park Service. This is at Lakeside Ranch in particular, but this is what we've been using so far. Next project is Lower Kissimmee Basin Stormwater Treatment Area. This is in Okeechobee County, where the Kissimmee River comes into Lake O. This will be a 2,500 acre treatment wetland to reduce total phosphorus in the Okeechobee Basin. And this is a little unique because it's privately owned currently, this property. It's owned by Ecosystem Investment Partners, LLC, and the intention is that EIP builds and operates this facility for 5 to 7 years and then ends up transferring it to the district once it meets certain criteria. But the general function is treating this water coming down the C38 canal out of the Kissimmee River Basin. It can be pumped in to these treatment cells, and depending on lower water levels, it could be pumped out of the or the Okeechobee Basin canal here coming from the right. Ends up being treated through the filtration marshes and then put back into the C38 canal before going on to Lake O. And recreation facilities proposed here, we'll have a parking lot up here off of Highway 70. This is just west of the town of Okeechobee. There'll be a parking lot, bathroom, informational kiosk. In that northwest corner, there'll be a shelter out here in a bumped out corner of fill inside this cell in the middle. And then down here where the property meets the C-38 canal at the Herbert Hoover Dike, there'll be a small shelter with picnic benches. And this will also line up with the Florida National Scenic Trail, which goes along the Herbert Hoover Dike here on the east side of the C-38 canal, and it'll go around this project. And again, opportunities will be probably likely on extended weekends, hiking, biking on the levees, fishing, and then again, once it's online, functioning as an impoundment, we'll assess it for waterfowl hunting and gator hunting possibilities. And this is S-193 gate replacement on Lake Okeechobee. This is a gate going through the Herbert Hoover Dike, coming out of Taylor Creek and going into Lake O. This is just a shot of it there. Here, the gate's wide open, so they go into these pockets as they swing open. So this is wide open into Taylor Creek, looking north. And an issue that's been existing is this is the Lake Okeechobee Scenic Trail. It basically circumnavigates Lake O. And you can hike and bike this entire Herbert Hoover Dike levee. But a problem we've had is that there's one gap in the trail that you can't cross this S-193 structure. You have to get off at Nubbin Slough, get down on Highway 441, which is dangerous and narrow at that spot, and hike or bike for 3 miles around Taylor Creek, and then get back up on the levee over here. So with this gate replacement, they're replacing 2 lakeside gates on this side at the bottom of the picture, these swinging gates. And then a new pedestrian pass-through over the top of the gates will be on these landside gates over here. So that Lake Okeechobee Scenic Trail will be contiguous, and you'll be able to connect across that structure at the S-193. So it's been a long-standing issue, and I know the city of Okeechobee has been wanting that for a while. So it'll be a vast improvement for that trail. And it looks something like this. There'll be an automated gate here. This yellow gate will swing shut on top of the larger gate where the boats are going through the lock. And the lock tender will have access to that gate, make sure it's safe for people to cross before they open it. There'll be an alarm system as well as a loudspeaker to let people know if they're in the wrong spot or it's about to close. And this is a new feature. We've got a nice campsite at the 4E's access point on the Kissimmee River. So we saw an opportunity here for some additional access. And this is Highway 98 here to Sebring off on the left, towards Okeechobee on the right. The highway crossing the Kissimmee River, and the new campsite is right here, right on the newly restored natural historical channel. Reservations can be made at the SUL site online. It's a free permit, but you do need a permit to access this. There's a gated or locked gate. You get a combo lock to get in there, and you can drive in or boat into this site. And again, it's a great convenient area because you're right on US Highway 98 with a short drive in at the 4E's ramp. And you have this beautiful old growth hammock there where the black arrow is, right adjacent to the historic natural river channel. So this is what it looks like, one of the sites. There's primitive sites, picnic bench, fire ring. This is looking west into the hammock and then looking off to the east, northeast. The floodplain is right there on the edge. So you have access to the main river channel just about 50 yards away. And there's 2 sites here, 2 particular sites that could be signed out for. Moving on, the Kissimmee River navigation signage, I talked about this about 3 months ago. And it looks like these signs, the contract will be awarded to start installing this signage by August of this year. So that's just an update on that. And again, that signage is to indicate to boaters the presence of this new riprap that was installed at some of the bends in the Kissimmee River. And, this is the result of Hurricane Ian in September. We lost 2 of our composting toilets up at Hickory Hammock Equestrian Center, and you can see this one got wiped out completely. And we're installing this brand new one as we speak this week, a CXT concrete prefabbed vault toilet. So So that'd be a great improvement. That's one of our busier campgrounds too, by the way, the Hickory Hammock Equestrian Center, so that'd be a welcome improvement to that site. And finally, yeah, unfortunately, this is a scene we see a lot of our structures and even a lot of our properties, especially in the more urban areas. We're seeing more and more of this. It's been a problem, but some areas are getting out of control. We had some complaints from the public that there's a lot of garbage at S46. This is right off Indiantown Road and I-95 at the gateway, the spillway that goes into the South Fork of the Loxahatchee River, great snook fishing spot. But citizens were complaining about the amount of garbage that was there, and it was being picked up, but they just couldn't keep up with the amount. And we do have an agreement with the town of Jupiter, and they were responsible for the pickup, but there was no cans there. So the town of Jupiter stepped it up and got these really nice concrete 600-pound trash cans that can't be really easily vandalized. And hopefully the site will be able to look a little bit better, and they'll be able to keep up with that maintenance on the property. And then it just gives people, an indicator that people are watching the site, taking care of it, so hopefully reduce some of that dumping. And that's it. It's just a quick run through of some kind of random hodgepodge of projects that are coming up. So any questions? Yes, Bishop.
Yes, Bishop. First of all, I want to thank y'all loudly for the 4E's campsite and the 4E's boat ramp. It's been well used, especially during hunting season, and I'm going to look forward to seeing it get used quite a bit for when the water comes back up a little bit on the river. I'm sure that it'll be used even more. But thank y'all for putting that together. It was really appreciated. Kind of like to see it expanded a little bit too in the future, but talk about that later. I'm grateful for what we do have. And sad to see the trash at the spillway there. I know y'all emphasized so heavily to get the public to be able to use that and really put a lot of thought and a lot of planning into that. And I say to everybody that, our biggest enemy is us, our trash. So do we have signage there? Like if you brought it in, take it out. Maybe we need to work on some signage or something there too. And we'll also do some social media posts a little bit about that too. So let's try and see if we can't work together with you on that and try to make that better.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Bishop. Yeah, that's true. Signage is an issue because it can't be enforced if there's no signage. We do have no dumping signs at a lot of these properties. Some of them we don't until we realize it's a problem. Then we try to get out there as soon as possible to put signage out.
Even if it's just a Boy Scout motto sign. If you brought it in, pack it out. Your mom doesn't work here.
Yeah, we do have something along those lines as well. That is, no trash cans provided. Take out what you bring in with you. But yeah, it's kind of a cultural thing. I mean, it's an education kind of component that needs to be out there, spreading the word. Because like you said, you're dirtying your own playground, if you don't respect it. So.
Yes, sir.
Mike, can I clarify, you back to your signage issue where you were talking about August
Yes.
for signage. When we met last time, we had a discussion about signage after the restoration of the river, and that we've got a great group that would like to do a flotilla down the river. We talked about multiple areas that needed signage. Are we talking about just that area of riprap that you showed in that picture that's talking about August, or are we talking about the entire restoration point that we were discussing last time that was supposed to be awarded in February and started like now? They're certainly not going to leave this again over the summer. Are we talking about just that one area?
Just the...
Or the entire C30 Canal?
Well, it's two areas. Everywhere there was riprap that was placed on the natural meandering channel, anywhere there was riprap placed, there's going to be signage at those, and then also at the S69 weir at the bottom of the whole southern end of the restoration project. There's warning signage at the weir itself, and that still has to be, that's part of that same contract.
And that was originally supposed to take place when we talked last in February, correct?
Correct, yes. Yeah, it's definitely behind schedule, and it's essentially the Army Corps' schedule, and at this point, it's out of our control. And unfortunately, it looks like it's going to miss another wet season of inundation when that riprap goes underwater again, so, yeah.
I would publicly remind our friends of the Army Corps about rules of navigational signage pursuant with the Coast Guard, too.
Thanks.
And the district. There's some liability there, guys.
Thank you. Moving around, anyone else? Okay, anybody on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Very good. All right, thank you, Mike.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate it. All right, next on the list is public use projects updates with Dan Cotter, the section leader here. Dan?
All right. All right, good evening, everyone. Last presentation here, and as usual, I've got a bunch of slides from different areas throughout the district, some updates, some closures, some things that you need to make others aware of, and I'll just run through those, and then if we've got any questions at the end, I can address those. At Dupuy, just so you all know, there's a culvert replacement project going to be taking place starting next month through May. It's just a lot of the culverts that go under the grades that are, failing. Matter of fact, Jim's worked on this project too, Jim Schutte, and there's a grant from Ducks Unlimited to replace those. That helps improve the area's long-term hydrology. Jim's making sure that the construction of those, don't impact any hunts or any special events or anything, but there may be times where the main grade or the grade on the east power line over there, which you see on the map on to the right, where the road is closed for the day, 1 to 3 days, depending on the culvert. So it's just something to be aware of, where those portions of that road into Dupuy could be closed for the day because of this project. Just a little quick update. I talked about this several months ago. The S-356 airboat replacement is still on schedule. The project manager told me they should have a contractor in place and construction potentially to begin next month, and have that boat ramp in place during construction of the new S-356. If you all remember, this is down in Dade County, south end of Water Conservation Area 3B, just off of Tamiami Trail and north of the L-29 Canal. So good news, that's still moving forward as scheduled. Jumping up to Palm Beach County, I know James talked about STA2 and the construction, but there's a significant construction project going on from now. It started early this month through the end of July. So it doesn't really impact any hunts or anything, but off of US 27, the main entrance where the bridge is to get in towards STA2, that bridge will be closed. There's somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 to 300 trucks going through that a day. I think the main impact is that as you head down that levee to get to the L6 and the Sportsman's crossover ramp, you won't be able to get to that at this time. And probably the biggest impact is the people that go there to fish. So if you can get that word out, we've got it on our website. FWC has it on their website, and I believe there's being some signage put in place too. Something that's come up over the last year or so is the US 27 boat ramps on the west side of US 27. There was 2 of them that had been closed for quite some time, that were closed by FDOT. So the district just issued a right-of-way permit to FDOT to make repairs to the northern boat ramp and get that back up to par. That permit allows FDOT to go in there and redo the paving, make repairs, restripe that whole parking lot. So once that's done, then that'll be transferred to Broward County for further improvements of the ramps and et cetera, and the management of that. And we'll ask, the county to come when they're ready to give an update on, their improvements and their future management of that. So that's an update on the US 27 boat ramp parking area. 9 Gems or Hungerland, also called Palmar East, the area we refer to as 9 Gems, located in Martin County. If you haven't been out there recently, there's some fire break that have been established just recently around the entire perimeter of the site. They've done the best they can to avoid any large trees, but it was important to have that in place. The good thing is that in the future, I know there's a lot of equestrian use there and hiking and biking. That also can serve well as a future public use trail around the perimeter of the site. I mentioned this last meeting, but just want to, kind of unique, we established 2 new Florida National Scenic Trail hiking campsites down in the Henry Glades STA 5-6 area, one in STA 5-6 and one off the L1 East Levee, which is several miles north of that. And they were used for this season for the through hikers on the Florida National Scenic Trail, and there's I think a sunrise picture of some of the hikers out there using the one just off STA 5-6, so that's working out real well. Now we'll jump down into Miami-Dade County, the Biscayne coastal wetlands, and you see this aerial here. A lot of work's been going on by our staff, contractors, to do exotic plant control and native plantings. But the community has got heavily involved in this, the very local community of the town of Cutler Bay and Palmetto Bay, especially for enhancing the site with not only plantings, but for public use. And the volunteerism has just been incredible there. We contracted the existing trail. We stabilized it for, there's about a 650 portion of a trail that comes off the main road there. And that was stabilized recently, so it's fully accessible, fully ADA accessible. And the volunteers actually went out and bordered that whole trail to stabilize it even better with the edge of rocks. So a lot of volunteer work out there. This area has been heavily replanted, not only by staff, but more particularly by volunteers. I'm just going to mention a few volunteer projects that are, of course, we have a lot of volunteer projects out there. Hard to grasp them all, but I always try to give an update. One, this is an upcoming volunteer project. It's set for Saturday, May 6th. If anybody's interested in it, talk to Bishop or Matt Nelson over there from Florida Sportsman's Conservation Association. This has kind of become an annual thing to do something around the Earth Day. And what we're looking at, probably a few projects. We've got to do a scouting day still, probably about a week or 10 days before May 6th, see what the water levels are. There's an old, in the past, the Florida National Scenic Trail was on the west side of the river. There are some old boardwalks in there. One's quite lengthy, but then there's also some smaller sections that have just been, basically are dilapidated and need to come out. So we're going to get the whole volunteer group again together, probably with some buggies and other equipment to take out that. We've also still got some small sections to the kind of northwest of Miko Landing that still have some posts and fencing in it, and we're going to look at to see if we can do a couple different projects depending on how accessible everything is. So that's scheduled for May 6th. That should be a good project. Just some projects district-wide that have taken place since we've last talked. There's all kinds of volunteers out there doing all kinds of things in different areas. I know Bob talked about Crew and what a great volunteer program out here. And these guys, this is the Bird Rookery parking lot. They just made numerous repairs to the fencing around the Crew Bird Rookery area there where the parking lot was. This is up in, the one to the right is up in Shingle Creek. That's the Sorba Bike Club that's been making all kinds of repairs to our bike trails up there. Getting the materials, building it. We may supply them with materials, but just a lot of labor out there. We really appreciate it. Another big project, which James Harbaugh helped coordinate, was volunteers from Dupuy. We had a brand new water system that went in for the new restrooms, but it was never sheltered and exposed to the elements. So we supplied the materials, and these folks actually built this whole shelter over this water system. Just well-needed project. Big thanks to all them. Another big volunteer project that maybe Brad can talk on a little bit more was the KRVSA group up in, Kissimmee Chain of Lakes had a kind of their annual waterway shoreline cleanup. They came out of Camp Max, so it wasn't where they staged everything was off of district lands, but they had, almost 50 volunteers. Other clubs and organizations joined them. There was law enforcement support. They had airboats, motorboats, side boats, and they got 4,000 pounds of trash. And most of that trash from the shorelines would be from, district properties that surround that upper Kissimmee Chain of Lakes area. So big project, great group coming together. And you can see the trash, the airboats, and you can see this picture here. That's our old boss, Steve Coughlin, who they had come up there. They didn't tell him why, and they recognized him for just all his, efforts over the years for conservation and recreation on public lands. So that was really nice. One last slide, just to all know, this really only affects one of our areas. It's Crew. We've got an executive order, a burn ban in place following the leads of the counties over there in Collier and Henry County. So campfires are prohibited, and that pretty much just right now involves the campgrounds that are within Crew. There's a potential as things get drier that burn ban could expand to other counties and other campgrounds, but for right now, it just affects Crew. And that's it. If there's any questions or comments, so feel free to answer them. Yep. Hi.
I
Okay.
appreciate the update.
Where are we?
and all
Yes,
the-
ma'am. Go right ahead.
My name's Marilyn. I appreciate all the new stuff that's been going on at Dupuy. I live close by. I'm about 40 minutes, so I go out often, especially during the cool weather, so I love seeing all the new stuff. I did want to bring to the attention of the Red Barn. The Red Barn is really beat up.
Really?
Some of the stall doors are falling off. You can't even open them, you can't even close them. Some horses have to be locked in, some can be in the paddocks, no issue. So I did want to bring that up. If there's a time, if you need volunteers, please let us know. I can reach out to some people, try to see if they can come out. We are willing to help. We love seeing the change at Dupuy. My other question is, there was an incident there with the camp post. I am hearing there's new rules. I'm hearing there's no new rules. I would like to get a copy of what the rules are at that place so I can follow them. I go there often. I know a lot of people that go there often. We love that place. We don't want to lose it. So if we can get an update of what is right and what is wrong, so we can follow those rules.
Sure. I'll get with you after the meeting.
I agree with you 100%. Dupree is one of the most beautiful places in Florida. There's absolutely nothing as well cared for as that property. And to think it's right next to Corbett, and that is important because it shows you exactly what the FWC and the Water Management District can do. They can have a place like Dupree, and right next door have a romp and stomp. FWC doesn't like that term, but I use it. I like Corbett. And both of them have dedicated, hardworking volunteers. Both of those beautiful properties, because Corbett is actually beautiful. But it's an incredible places, close to 5 million people or more. It's incredible. And yes, ma'am.
Having a camp post out there that works with the individuals that go there in a manner, a proper manner, I want to say, would really be great. We would all be very grateful. We were getting backlash from the person that was there before. We heard of a few people that had to leave overnight. There were a lot of issues. We're hoping now with the new person that's taking over that he's more cordial and that he's more helpful. We love the area. We love going there. We have a lot of people that enjoy that area.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, ma'am, would you say your name? I don't think we got that on the recording.
I'm sorry, my name is Nancy.
Okay, Nancy, thank you. Okay, yes, sir.
I'd like to take just a second to thank some other staff. Dan, thank you for including KRBSA and our lake cleanup in your presentation. You know, it's refreshing. It's a little scary for all of us as stakeholders anytime that there are staff or personnel changes, because we become used to personalities and relationships. Thank you, Justin, for coming up. He came up that day, took his Saturday, and got on a boat and picked up trash and spent the day with us. And it was a good way to get to know each other on a different type basis. And it was great to go out and kind of get our hands dirty, but smile and laugh and let him see part of what we love. James Harbaugh called, and I tell you, we were very fortunate as sportsmen to have BJ. Thank you for coming in again tonight, who you could always call or email to get permits, and just what a great guy to work with. But James Harbaugh called me a few days before that event and said, hey, man, we haven't seen a permit. And I was so thankful to watch and know that staff sees this stuff and watches. It was at Camp Mac, and I kind of laughed. I said, I don't think you guys can issue a permit for something you don't own. And we had a good laugh. But I took to heart out of that conversation was the fact that he cared enough to realize, hey, there's an event coming up, and did we miss anything or did anything happen? And to me, it's a testament to the way this room works together. Jim Schutte works well with us, but we thank you. And there's other folks in that thing. So Vince Matera came and spent the day. So thank you to everybody that came up and came out. And thank you for always reaching out, calling from a cell phone and saying, hey, how can we help? Of all the agencies that, on behalf of sportsmen, I get the opportunity to interact with, and I've said it here before, this is amazing, the relationships that take place here. And it is because, in my opinion, it is because of a forum just like this.
Thank you. We've kind of eased into the last agenda item, and that is the recreation discussion on updates and future meeting topics. And also, if anyone we normally just go around to the room and do this.
We do have 3 hands raised on Zoom.
So, and we will pick up the Zoom people before we start. So just let them come on, and then after that, we'll just flow right into going around and be sure everybody has a chance to talk about things that they want to see on their future agendas and any topic that you have. Now, we have a few minutes, so we're a little ahead of schedule. So I'll have a soft gavel if you want to go over the 3-minute warning. Thank you. So on to Zoom.
Yes, we'll hear from John Monty, followed by Daniel Watson. Mr. Monty, please unmute.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Hey, Dan Newton, everybody. It's John Monty. Dan, I know you're talking about the boat ramps on 27. I was wondering if you had an update to the public boat ramp at Sawgrass Recreation and how it's been closed outside of business hours. If anything's been done to gain access in there.
Hi, John. No, I don't. I don't have, unfortunately, Tom Reinhardt had another conflict because I had asked him to come from FWC to maybe give an update if he had any. I'm sorry, I don't. I don't know if anyone from the commission who's either on or here has any updates, but yeah, I don't have anything.
Okay, and I guess maybe I should have asked James this question, but I know I got an email from you last year about the western levees at the A1 Feb. You know, that northern levee has been closed now for years and probably be closed for the next 5 years or so. But that southwestern levee was just recently closed last year, and the temporary date for opening was going to be like this March or April. Do you have any updates on that?
Yeah, I think it's going to go to at least August or early fall on that southwest portion. So it's in the pipeline to reopen. It's just a little bit longer. I can double check, John, with the project manager and get you an update. The northwest portion will be closed for several years with the construction of the EAA, but that southwest should open, in the next year here. But I'll get an update, and if there's something drastically different, I'll let you know.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Monty. Next, we'll hear from Daniel Watson, followed by Michelle Harper. Mr. Watson, you can unmute.
Hey, Daniel Watson again. Dan, I just wanted to thank you for the update on the S356 boat ramp as well as the boat ramp off of 27. Happy to see those projects moving forward. I was going to ask about the Sawgrass boat ramp, but the previous caller took my thunder. And Brad from KRV SA, I'll butcher your last name if I go for it, but just wanted to shine a little light on you and express some gratitude for all the work you guys do with the trash cleanup. And you've always been a straight shooter. You tell it how it is, but it's also great to see you recognize these folks that work hard with us from the agencies and from the district. You definitely give credit where credit's due, and that goes a long way in making everyone that enjoys these opportunities, very appreciative of the district's work. You guys are out there doing the work, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Next, we'll hear from Michelle Harper. Ms. Harper, please unmute.
Good evening. Michelle Harper, Okeechobee. Longtime user of Hickory Hammock, except that recently, as Mr. Cotter and I spoke about this morning, the equestrians have been shut out by the non-equestrian campers. For the last 3 months, I've tried to get an equestrian camp permit, and you cannot get a permit from Thursday to Tuesday. They've just been full. I went to Istapoga Canal to see if I could get a tent camping site there because my husband and I are avid kayakers as well. Couldn't get in there. Actually went up there, launched, and had a conversation with Camp Host, and he said, it's the same problem on both ends of that property. These non-equestrian and campers, I call them moonduckers, which is what they call themselves. They put in for their permits and they don't show up. They don't cancel and they don't show up. So my suggestion with Mr. Cotter was to, on the Hickory Hammock Equestrian Center, do like you've done at Dupuy. Limit the number of non-equestrians and limit the number of equestrians so that the equestrians at least have a shot at getting in there on the weekends. Most of us work, and that would be the only time that we would have. Sorry. All right, apparently somebody just pulled up in my house.
Okay,
And
thank you
then I'm
thank you
very
very much.
happy to see-
Are you done, or are you still have more to say, sir?
No, sir, I just had to move to another room. The dogs would be disturbing us. I'm very happy to see the new restrooms at Hickory Hammock. I know they've been a problem for a while. It was unfortunate that hurricanes took them out, but I am glad to see those new vaulted. And then one other little problem I wanted to bring up was there are no restroom facilities at Grassy Island off of Northwest 50th Drive. And there's a lot of use out there. I'm out there almost every day at different times of the day. You've got bikers, hikers, and horse people. And there's no restroom facilities, and there's not even a bush to hide behind. And a lot of people have been commenting on that. So if something could be done about that, that would be wonderful. But it does get a lot of use.
Okay.
And that's all I have to say. Thank you
Okay,
much.
thank you, Michelle. I took down, noted all your comments, particularly the restroom. Good point.
Saw a lot of pencils moving, so I think you can probably contact Dan Cotter if you need a contact point.
There are no more hands raised.
Okay, now we can slip into the last part of the agenda. I just want to start off with a couple of things. The EA2 reservoir is a big news item for a while, and we had groundbreaking the other day. And it's 10 years away, but I just want to remind the Corps and the district that that reservoir is supposed to have a boat ramp in it so that the public has access to it. And I went through this with the EA1 reservoir, And I know the boat ramp was put in the EA1 reservoir plans. So we're building what amounts to about a 16,000 acre lake, although they say 23 foot deep, but most of the time it's going to be less than that, half of that. And it's going to be full of fish. And we can't have people running their $50,000 boat, bass boats up 27 looking over what will be one of the biggest lakes in Florida and not have access to it. So it's supposed to be in the plan, but I haven't heard it mentioned. So I hope that the pencils are moving on that. Same thing on the SDA. Now that SDA, EA2 SDA is going to be done in a couple of years. Normally with a year operating, we should be able to duck on that thing. Might seem a long time at my age. Comes and goes real fast. I stood up and spoke in support of the EA1 and 2 reservoirs first time at a PIR meeting in 2003. 2003, and it won't be completed to 2032. So it gives you an idea of why it's important to attend these meetings and participate. So that's my little saying for the night. So start to the left, and again, anyone that has any comments, questions, or things you think should be on the next agenda, which will be June 19th? June 19th will be our next meeting. Yes, yes.
Yep, Mike Elfenbein. So real quick, I've had the distinct pleasure of working with several sportsmen and legislators over the last couple months. In the House and Senate, we've introduced House Bill 1157 and Senate Bill 1234. They are the right to fish and hunt. They will propose a constitutional amendment to be voted on by the public in 2024. And with Governor DeSantis's push to secure the Florida Wildlife Corridor, knowing that sportsmen are responsible for 20% of the land that encompasses the corridor today, the value of ensuring that fishing and hunting remains on our landscape well into the future is that much more important beyond just the recreational aspect. So being in a room full of sportsmen, I just want to bring this legislation to your attention and ask that you all work very hard to push it throughout your organizations and communities to ensure that our legislators know that we support it and it makes it on the ballot for 2024. Thank you.
Mike? Yes, sir.
I'd like to take a minute. Last time we were here, we had some discussions about lake levels. And Drew was kind enough to stay a few minutes afterward. I thank you. I reached out to his office and got a call back, and he was actually in meetings in Tallahassee. So it's proof that this forum does work and relationships do work. I thank you. There was a little outreach by the Corps. I don't see a great end in sight. There were public comments. We did a Freedom of Information Act request. The first one I did was back in last November. This time, I think they took it serious. We got it within the 20 days, not the 5 months. But I'm a little disappointed in them. I looked today, and according to their new release plan, they're about a foot ahead of schedule, and the gates are still open. So I don't really comprehend what's going on. My quick question to you is, in all that, we've asked, and I was very adamant about trying to form a forum like this with them. Now, when I talked to a Lieutenant Colonel Polk, he offered, hey, we'll come speak to the group. We'll come. I said, don't come up there right now because people are a little upset with hundreds of thousands of dollars in property damage and tens of thousands of boat damage. And cancellations of businesses you can't believe. This would not be a good time. Let that cool down a little bit. But I don't see any outreach. Has anybody said or mentioned anything to you? It would be so easy if we could get together and do this, but all it seems that I keep getting is, well, we'll come speak to the group and tell them what we're going to do. We keep telling you what we want, and you're not doing what we want you to do. Have you had any outreach at all for a reply from Booth or anybody on this stuff?
So I thought I saw some email traffic about them scheduling something, but I may have misread that. Was that not happening?
They didn't have anything scheduled up. They had some other scheduled areas, yes, and they just recently did, guess what? another input your opinion survey. Right? I said, guys, the opinion's still the same. It hasn't changed. But you know, we're below deviation schedule now, and the locks are, the gates are still open. I can't comprehend this.
So I don't want to make this a whole lakes. I will see Colonel Booth tomorrow, and so I'll check in with him. But let me talk to you afterwards about why those gates are open.
And I appreciate very much what you did. So thank
you
you
bet.
from us. We appreciate it. It staved off some stuff for a little while.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, Tom Schmidt, Florida Airboat Association. First of all, I want to say thank you to the district for holding the RAC meetings. This forum is very special. A lot has been accomplished on and off through the years I've been here to witness this, so kudos to you for continuing this. Secondly, it's already been brought up once, but I just wanted to reiterate from the Airboat Association, the concern that we have with the Sawgrass Wreck locking their gates there for the access. We'd like to see if Water District would to visit the lease that they have with Sawgrass, and maybe FWC to look at the lease to restrict the public access, especially 2B, where there's not an official boat ramp there, but it's an unofficial airboat ramp. When they lock that gate, there's no more access. Or if the public's out there and they lock the gate, they're stuck in there. So it's becoming a problem for public access on public land. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. That is a very difficult situation there. I want to say this, the district, the FWC, and everybody has looked at that every way you can. And no one's been able to figure it out yet. The lease is good until 2026. So I think they ought to just build another boat ramp off 27 so you can dump into 2B, you know. But we'll see. It is being worked on, though, I promise you that. Okay, yes, sir.
I'd like to make a comment about the low water conditions in Area 3. Right now, we're 0.08 feet above recreational closure in Area 3. And I listened into the governing board meeting a week or two ago, and they said, you know, they're letting water go in the east, out of the Lake Okeechobee, east and west. They also said FEB and Area 2 were above their schedules. They're a little higher than they normally are. And I know there's more factors that go into where water goes, but I can't help but think if that water is going to Area 3, we might have a few more weeks of access to our camps, things like that.
Yeah, thank you. WCA 3 is so often too high, too low. It'll be too high come September, and they'll ban public access. So, a lot of water in the lake. We're still close to 15 feet. We've got 2 months left to get the lake to 13 feet. That's going to be interesting. Yes, Bishop.
I just want to take the time to thank all of y'all for attending this meeting and showing them that we get a lot done at this meeting. And we have done a lot at this meeting in the past few years. And I appreciate everybody showing up tonight and showing that you appreciate recreation on the district lands. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop. Going on around. Okay.
Matt Nelson. Dan, I just want to thank you for your leadership on the volunteer projects. This year, just like always, we have great response from sportsmen with equipment and everything on that project. If anybody wants to volunteer, we'll still take plenty of people help. We have machinery and everything, but get in touch with us and hopefully we'll make another great project May 6th.
Thank you. Continuing on around, Mr. Butler, would you like to make a comment? Thank you. Keep coming around. Yeah.
PJ Patel. I just wanted a few more comments, like, yes, 139, Taylor Creek, it's a really great presentations today, and like Bishop said and Brad said, this is just a combination of a lot of things to bring this recreation program this far in the last 20 years. So this 139, Taylor Creek, that pedestrian gate or pedestrian bridge or whatever we call it, it's been 20 years in going. So after 20 years, when it's being done, I'm so happy to see that at least the hikers would not have to take the risk, go down to 41 and up again. So that's really caught me. And the other one is trail counters. I don't know, all are still going on. At least crew seems like doing it good. That was my favorite project. We started in 2013. I hope it's all going on still. And Justin, congratulations, being a personal friend, congratulations. It's a big shoe to fill in, but you'll do it good, I'm pretty sure. And it's all good to see all old friends and everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, BJ, for all the comments. And yeah, we just had a discussion the other day about the trail counter, so we plan on getting some of those resurrected, because there was a lot of good, important data that BJ was instrumental in collecting at many of our trailheads. But thanks.
Okay, thanks. Moving on around. Jim?
Thank you, Newton. I would just like to take a moment and direct onto the sawgrass ramp issue that's been brought up a couple times, and let this group know, although Tom Reinage not here this evening, this is something that's on his desk, and he is working with it and having communications with the leaseholder over there. So it's an ongoing topic. It's not a dead topic, and that's kind of what I just wanted to pass on. He's still working on it. And with that, Newton, you brought up Corbett Wildlife Management Area, and it's not a district-managed land, but that was my cue to plug the Everglades Youth Camp, which registrations are open right now, and that is one fantastic sleepaway camp for your kids. Thank you.
Coming around, yes, Jim?
Yeah, about the fire break over there at Hungerland, just want to make sure to thank Forestry. We got the funds to do that fire break from John Sadler up there. So again, another agency working towards the same benefits. And as far as a trail, that'll make, you can imagine how many loop trails are going to happen as soon as we finish that off. It should be done in a couple weeks.
Jim? We do have one on Zoom.
Yes, Daniel Watson.
Last time, I promise. Daniel Watson. First and foremost, I just want to thank everyone who made a presentation today, and of course, Newton and Mr. Bartlett for being there, and everyone that's sitting around that table. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person tonight, but I do understand the sacrifice of making it there in person, and it's great to see a lot of faces filling the table. Mike Weston, if there's no more room in SERP for handling some of those invasives, I've seen firsthand the Brazilian pepper that have clogged up the area there in Picayune. This is your chance to kind of drop a plug. If you have an invasive plan, I don't have 15 million in my pocket, but you do have a wide array of sportsmen and women here that can just do their best to drum up some support and contact representatives to try and get you some more funding for that. I did want to touch on what Kyle mentioned earlier. We know Lake Okeechobee is around 15 feet, and 3A North's getting towards that 9-foot closure criteria. And currently we have 10% of the water going east out of the lake, 54% of the water going west out of the lake, out of the S77. That's around 1,300 CFS. And the 7-day average says 36% going south. It's currently 0 CFS. So we got 3A North drying up with no water going towards it, but we have 181 CFS heading further south out of the S12. Just kind of curious as to why we're getting so close to that low water closure criteria, if we could send just a little more water there. And I do echo Newton's comments that we know by the end of August, early September, archery season will be cut short about 3 weeks into it because of high water. But I understand you guys are all doing the best you can. And in closing, just wanted to say again, thank you for all the sportsmen and women that are there, because we all know everyone around that table holds some management stamps and permits and registrations for their vehicles. All this goes into funding some of the recreational opportunities we get to support, and every PowerPoint presentation highlights hunter access and sportsman access, as well as hikers and bikers. And not to take anything away from the equestrian community, they're great to have here, and that's what this forum's all about. But let's keep in mind always that the sportsmen and women are the ones that at least fund a portion of some of this stuff, some of the greatest conservationists that we have there. Appreciate it. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much. Okay, last but not least, Drew, would you have some finishing comments for us? Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you everyone for coming out and tuning in on Zoom. I truly enjoy these forums. I learn so much. Every time, staff, I just get even more impressed every time. I mean, you guys are such dedicated folks. Rich, welcome to the table. Look at all the opportunity you have now. So I got 2 pages worth of notes, and everyone knows that I'll be following up on those. But I really appreciate everyone coming and speaking and sharing your thoughts, and quite frankly, sharing the partnerships that we have with every one of you to keep our recreation opportunities alive. Very much appreciate it. Back to you, Newton.
Thank you. The next meeting is on June 19th. Look forward to seeing all of you again. And we are